Chapter 878. Okay, let's stop here. You can leave, Zhou Xuanji said with his eyes closed. Zhou Xuanji said with his eyes closed, and his tone became lazy. Having heard this, the 12 ancestor immediately bowed and left. After they left, Zhou Xuanji sat on the golden throne in deep thought. Now that he was a supreme being, his perspective of thinking was different from before. He knew that the Kunlun origin court wasn't safe, so he wanted to improve the overall strength of the Kunlun origin court. He couldn't be the only one powerful. When he heard the 12 ancestors' explanation, he already had a huge plan in his mind. The Kunlun origin court can't be limited to my home, Zhou Xuanji mumbled to himself. He didn't finish his sentence. He continued to adjust his sovereign divine energy. The next day, the origin court spread the news of the God Pillar position to all the divine ranges. Most creatures expressed their support for Zhou Xuanji's decision. In their eyes, this was an opportunity for their future. It was also an opportunity to find Zhou Xuanji directly. If the divine ranges were in danger, the God Pillars could ask for help from the sovereign. If they became God Pillars, they could reach the sky in one step. For a moment, the Kunlun origin court was in an uproar. The Kunlun origin court had nearly 10,000 divine ranges. Each divine range had countless creatures living in it. It wasn't easy to choose a suitable God Pillar in each divine range. The 12 ancestors were extremely cautious about Zhou Xuanji's first task. Ever since Zhou Xuanji broke through to Great Sovereign, they had been feeling great pressure. If they didn't do a good job, Zhou Xuanji might really make them step down from their positions. Emperor Sword Divine Range, halfway up the mountain, in a courtyard, Jiang Shui, Xian Xianghua, and Zhou Shaoxian were chatting in a small pavilion. Zhou Shaoxian leaned on the table and sighed. When will father come back? I heard that the powerful cultivators of the origin court could go in a closed-door cultivation for millions of years or even longer. Will he be like that too? It had been so long since Zhou Xuanji ascended to the throne. Her excitement had faded. She wanted to go to Zhou Xuanji's supreme palace to take a look, but he still hadn't come back, which made her very disappointed. Jiang Shui smiled as she peeled the spiritual fruit. Are you that free? Do you want me to betroth you to a good husband? That way, your attention can be diverted. Zhou Shaoxian curled her lips and said, I don't want to. My goal is not love. I want to follow in my father's footsteps. At the very least, I can't be left far behind by Tanhua. Jiang Shui rolled her eyes and smiled helplessly. This girl will never grow up. Xian Xianghua swirled her wine glass, lost in thought. Aunt Xian, what are you thinking about? Zhou Shaoxian suddenly patted Xian Xianghua's shoulder and asked. Xian Xianghua smiled and said, I'm thinking about the position of the godly pillar. Hearing this, Zhou Shaoxian was speechless, and Jiang Shui could not help but laugh. Aunt Xian, it seems that you are very dissatisfied with your son being the branch master. Zhou Shaoxian winked and smiled provocatively. Jiang Shui glared at her and snappily said, Will you only be happy when you go in a closed-door cultivation for 100 years? Zhou Shaoxian was terrified when she heard that. She was most afraid of boring seclusion. She had to rest from time to time during her cultivation. This was also the biggest reason why she was surpassed by Zhou Tanhua. Zhou Tanhua was completely different from her. He loved to cultivate alone. Unless he encountered trouble in cultivation, he would rarely take the initiative to leave the place of cultivation. Of course not. There are only a few Origin Fusion Divine Lords in the Emperor Sword Divine range. Naturally, I won't decline, Xian Xianghua said, curling her lips. She didn't have any thoughts of scheming against him. She just wanted to make a name for herself. Even if she couldn't become the first in the Kunlun Origin Court, she wanted to be the second. Jiang Shui smiled and said, You should cultivate well. Don't go out and cause trouble for him. Maybe you can even become the sovereign in the future. Xian Xianghua slightly furrowed her brow. She asked in surprise, Why do you say that? She could hear the deeper meaning in Jiang Shui's tone. You still don't know him? What did he stay in one place for a long time? Jiang Shui shook her head and said with a smile. She still remembered that Zhou Xuanji had told her about Sovereign Wu Zhou. In her opinion, The seed of leaving the Kunlun origin court had already taken root and sprouted in Zhou Xuanji's heart. Xian Xianghua thoughtfully murmured, "In that case, I won't be a god pillar anymore. I have to cultivate in seclusion. I can't fall behind too much." She wanted to follow Zhou Xuanji more than make a name for herself. She couldn't imagine what dangers there were outside the Kunlun origin court. Only by following him could she feel at ease. At the same time, she was also looking forward to more exciting experiences. "What are you thinking? I just became the sovereign, and you are already looking forward to my downfall?" Zhou Xuanji's voice suddenly drifted over, startling the three women. They saw Zhou Xuanji slowly walking down from the sky. His purple robe was fluttering in the wind. He had an imposing appearance, fully displaying the aura of a sovereign. "Father!" Zhou Xiaoxian stood up excitedly. She looked at Zhou Xuanji. The more she looked, the more excited she became. After not seeing him for so long, she felt that her father seemed to have changed into a different person. Who would dare to question whether Zhou Xuanji was worthy of being the sovereign now? Jiang Shui and Xian Xianghua were even more dazzled. This was their man, the person with the highest status in the Kunlun origin court. Zhou Xuanji walked up to Zhou Xiaoxian and rubbed her head. Then, he walked up to Jiang Shui and Xian Xianghua and opened his arms. The two women immediately jumped into his embrace. With his wife and daughter by his side, Zhou Xuanji smiled happily. Only in this moment did he feel real. "Don't worry. No matter where I go, I will take you with me." It was like this in the past, now, and in the future, Zhou Xuanji said with a gentle smile. Zhou Xuanji said with a gentle smile, and the two girls smiled happily. Zhou Xiaoxian came up to his side and curled her lips, asking, "Father, I thought you had forgotten about us." She pretended to be unhappy, but the excitement in her eyes couldn't be concealed. Zhou Xuanji chuckled and said, "I came back to pick up your mother and Aunt Xian. As for you, stay in the Emperor Sword Divine range and cultivate well." Having heard this, Zhou Xiaoxian immediately put on a sad face. Zhou Xuanji immediately understood that she was acting. He just smiled and didn't say anything. After that, he pulled the two women to sit down and talked about the recent situation of the Emperor Sword Divine range. Since he became the sovereign, the 12 law ancestors and many divine ranges sent gifts one after another. This caused the spiritual qi in the Emperor Sword Divine range to grow continuously. The environment was getting better and better. The resources that the disciples could receive had also increased exponentially. With Zhou Xuanji in the lead, the disciples were all working hard to cultivate. Their cultivation was constantly improving. Ren Niming became the first person to break through to Origin Fusion Divine Lord after Xian Xianghua and Zhou Tianhua. This guy was the incarnation of destiny. After joining Zhou Xuanji's banner, his destiny was connected to Zhou Xuanji's. And Zhou Xuanji was the sole sovereign, which made his cultivation soar. Fortunately, this guy didn't get arrogant. He was still loyal to the Emperor's Sword Divine range. In addition, the number of 9 vast heavens and Tao ancestors was also increasing rapidly. They were bound together for good or bad. After Zhou Xuanji became the sovereign, the destiny of all the disciples of the Emperor's Sword Divine range had also improved by leaps and bounds. It could be said that when a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs rise to heaven. Chapter 879. The news of Zhou Xuanji's return to the Emperor's Sword Divine range didn't spread. The Emperor's Sword Divine range was also in harmony. The disciples still didn't know that Zhou Xuanji was back. The reason for this was that Zhou Xuanji didn't want to cause trouble. Not to mention that his home wasn't just the Emperor's Sword Divine range, but the entire Kunlun origin court. 10 years passed just like that. During these 10 years, he taught his children to cultivate. He didn't interfere in the affairs of the Emperor's Sword Divine range. Occasionally, he would give advice to Zhou Tianhua. On this day, Zhou Xuanji was about to leave with Jiang Shui and Xian Xianghua. Before leaving, he looked at Zhou Tianhua and asked curiously, "Are you going to keep this form?" After so long, Zhou Tianhua still maintained his youthful appearance. Although this appearance was very pleasing, Zhou Xuanji felt that he should have the spirit and appearance of a boy. The appearance is not important. What's important is the heart. I can change into the appearance of a normal man at any time, but I don't think it's necessary, Zhou Tanhua said with a smile. Zhou Tanhua said with a faint smile. He seemed to be even calmer than Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji's calmness was sharp. On the other hand, Zhou Tanhua seemed approachable. It was easy for people to feel close to him. He looks good just like this. Zhou Xiaoxian rubbed Zhou Tanhua's head and chuckled. It was precisely because of Zhou Tanhua's appearance that she often teased him. After so many years, it was the same every time they met. In her eyes, Zhou Tanhua was a younger brother who would never grow up. But in the eyes of others, she was the one who would never grow up. She was more like a younger sister. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said with a smile, "After we leave, you have to support each other. After all, you are brother and sister. Apart from us, there is no one closer to you. Understand? Don't give up on each other at any time." Zhou Tanhua nodded, while Zhou Xiaoxian curled her lips. Okay, you speak as if we're going to part forever," Zhou Xiaoxian said, waving her hand. She pretended to be impatient, but in fact she felt wronged. She had never bid farewell like this in her life. She tried to comfort herself that she had already grown up. Jiang Shui looked at Zhou Xiaoxian and felt very distressed. But she understood that her daughter had grown up. She should let her grow up. Zhou Xuanji looked at Zhou Xiaoxian and said with a smile, "Okay, I will wait for you up there. I look forward to you finding me with your own ability." With that, he waved his right hand and disappeared with Jiang Shui and Xian Xianghua. Zhou Xiaoxian looked up. Through the sky of the Emperor's Sword Divine Range, she seemed to see the peak of the Origin Court. "Cultivate well." Zhou Tanhua patted her on the shoulder and comforted her. Then he turned around and left. Hearing this, Zhou Xiaoxian came back to her senses and hurriedly turned around to chase after him. "Stinky little brother, what are you talking about? Is my cultivation weak?" Sovereign Plain. Zhou Xuanji and the others landed on the summit. Jiang Shui and Xian Xianghua observed their surroundings, and they were all stunned. "This place is so beautiful. This world belongs to me. You can go wherever you want and create whatever you want," Zhou Xuanji said with a smile. With a wave of his right hand, the doors of the Supreme Palace opened. The two women looked at each other and immediately flew in different directions. They want to take a look at the Supreme Plane first. The Supreme Plane didn't have a fixed boundary, and it could be continuously expanded. There were many natural treasures here, and it contained almost all the resources of the Kunlun Origin Court. This was all thanks to the 12 ancestors. Zhou Xuanji smiled and walked into the palace alone. He was going to continue studying the rules of the mortal world. In the mortal plane, sovereign mortal world was meditating in the sea of fog. Strands of soul shadows coiled around her like a group of dancing ghosts. It was very strange. Since parting with Zhou Xuanji, she had been focusing on cultivating the rules of the soul. Although it wasn't a leap forward, it was still a great epiphany. Suddenly, she opened her eyes and said with a calm look, "Come out." Just as she spoke, a spatial crack appeared in front of her, and a figure stepped out. It was Zhou Fa. Looking at Zhou Fa, who looked exactly like Zhou Xuanji, Sovereign Mortal World said with a contemptuous smile, "You dare to come to me, a little ghost who doesn't dare to show his true face." Zhou Fa looked very nervous, facing Sovereign Mortal World. He forced a smile and said, "I came here to ask you a favor. After it's done, you'll have the opportunity to break through to the great sovereign realm. You want to read my fortune?" "I don't dare." Zhou Fa's smile was very unnatural. Cold sweat was dripping from his forehead. Sovereign Mortal World closed her eyes and asked, "What's the matter?" Zhou Fa replied, "It's like this. There's a big opportunity outside the Kunlun Origin Court. Dozens of great sovereigns will gather there. If you can let the Sword Emperor go, it will be beneficial for both you and the Sword Emperor." Sovereign Mortal World didn't speak and waited for him to continue. Zhou Fa explained slowly. After a long while, Zhou Fa looked up at Sovereign Mortal World and asked, "How is it?" Sovereign Mortal World didn't answer immediately, as if she didn't notice him talking. Zhou Fa wasn't in a hurry either. He waited patiently. "Okay, wait outside the court Sovereign Mortal World said leisurely. Autar Crimson Dust said slowly. Zhou Fa immediately bowed and left. She opened her eyes, stood up, and said with a smile, "You have been listening for so long. Why don't you show yourself?" A beam of light descended from the sky and landed in front of her. Zhou Xuanji appeared majestically with the Emperor's Sword of Life and Death, and a long sword radiating red light floating behind him. This red sword was the Kunlun Soul Sword. "What do you think?" Sovereign Mortal World asked with a smile as she looked at Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said, "It should be a trap, but I want to take a look. This is a good opportunity to get in touch with the outside world." Zhou Fa said that an ancient great sovereign had invited great sovereigns to meet him with the excuse of a sovereign's opportunity. There was no need to fight. They just wanted to get to know each other and obtain information about the sovereign's opportunity together. If this was said by a great sovereign, Zhou Xuanji might not think too much about it. But the other party sent Zhou Fa. He couldn't help but think too much. "You have just become a great sovereign. Do you want to stabilize yourself for a while?" Sovereign Mortal World asked with concern. She was a little surprised. She couldn't see through Zhou Xuanji's cultivation. This kid gave her a feeling that he was even more mysterious than the Sword Emperor and the Darkness Sovereign. He was like Sovereign Wu Zhou. "It's okay. I can stabilize myself better if I go out and fight," Zhou Xuanji said with a confident smile. Zhou Xuanji smiled confidently. He had already noticed Zhou Fa when he entered the Kunlun Origin Court. He deliberately let Zhou Fa in to see what tricks this guy had. Sovereign Mortal World nodded and said, "Then I will go with you." Zhou Xuanji raised his hand and said, "No, I have another request." "What is it?" "Teach my 2 wives to cultivate. When I come back, I will share half of the opportunity with you," Zhou Fa said. "TSK, are you afraid that I will drag you down?" "No, I just feel that the Kunlun Origin Court needs someone to take charge. When the time comes, I will let you control the Divine Demonstration Array." "Yo, you have even mastered the Divine Demonstration Array?" The two began to chat and laugh. They were no longer as distant as before, but they still treated each other with respect. Looking at the current Zhou Xuanji, Sovereign Mortal World couldn't help but sigh. The feeling of being in anti-Kunlun had returned. Chapter 880. Mortal Sovereign did not refuse Zhou Xuanji's request to oversee the Kunlun Origin Court, and so Zhou Xuanji took her back to the Sovereign's plane. He summoned Jiang Shui and Xian Xianghua. When the two girls saw Mortal Sovereign, they looked a little strange, especially Xian Xianghua. She used to regard Mortal Sovereign as her master, but now she always felt awkward. "I will teach you cultivation in the future. I will leave only after the Sovereign returns," Mortal Sovereign said expressionlessly. Autar Crimson Dust said expressionlessly. His tone was very calm, and he had returned to his usual demeanor. Jiang Shui said gracefully, then, "Thank you." She had a smile on her face and her eyes. Her heart was as clear as a mirror. He had told her everything that happened between Zhou Xuanji and Mortal Sovereign. Mortal Sovereign nodded and said, "You guys talk first. I will find a place to cultivate." After that, she flew toward the horizon. As soon as she left, the pressure on Xian Xianghua was immediately reduced. "Should I call her sister now?" Xian Xianghua asked with a faint smile. Jiang Shui was startled. She covered her mouth and laughed. Zhou Xuanji said helplessly, "That was just an accident." He and Mortal Sovereign did not have that kind of relationship, and Mortal Sovereign did not want to become his woman directly. So he left it to fate. Next, he told the two girls about his upcoming journey. After listening to him, the two girls frowned. "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. In my opinion, the Kunlun Origin Court has encountered successive disasters because it has been stuck in its own ways and can never get out," Zhou Xuanji said with a smile. He raised his hand and rubbed the long hair of the two girls with a gentle expression. He planned to stay for a few years before leaving. As for Zhou Fa, he would wait a little longer. He believed that Zhou Fa would wait until he appeared. The Kunlun Origin Court was still establishing a new order. He had to wait for the God Pillars to be selected. A year later, Zhou Xuanji met with nearly 10,000 god pillars in the Supreme Palace. The 12 ancestors stood at the forefront. Everyone was very nervous facing Zhou Xuanji. No one dared to whisper. They all lowered their heads and waited for Zhou Xuanji to speak. Before coming, they had imagined all kinds of scenes. They thought that this sovereign would be very immature, but they did not expect Zhou Xuanji's aura to be so powerful. Even if he did not deliberately reveal it, they still felt suffocated. The absolute difference in strength made them not dare to have any improper thoughts, only endless reverence. The 12 Law ancestors were like this as well. They sighed in admiration in their hearts. It seemed like the Sword Emperor had made a huge breakthrough again. Compared to a few years ago, the pressure that Zhou Xuanji gave them was even greater. Zhou Xuanji said slowly, "You are all the first god pillars. Don't think about taking care of your positions. From now on, there will be another god pillar selection every 1,000 years. The god pillar positions will be voted by the creatures in the divine range. If you can maintain the highest number of votes, you can be re-elected. If you don't have the highest number of votes, you will be replaced. If you fail, you will still have a chance to run for the position of the divine pillar in the future, understand?" The expressions of all the divine pillars changed greatly, falling from heaven to hell in an instant. Even the 12 ancestors of Law were shocked. When they thought about it, they were instantly shocked. Such a rule could indeed spur on the divine pillars. If it was the branch master, he would probably overturn the heavens. The divine ranges belong to the Kunlun origin court, but they also belong to themselves. Zhou Xuanji was very clear about the feelings of the branch masters. When he was the Emperor's Sword Divine Range's range master, he did not want to be controlled by others. The god pillars he promoted were not taking away the freedom of the divine ranges. On the contrary, he was giving the creatures in the divine ranges a chance. The range masters might be furious, but everyone would be happy. Who did not want to climb higher and higher? Understood. Who dares not to understand? Senior Mace suddenly shouted. All the god pillars trembled in fear, and they responded in unison. Understood. Nearly 10,000 powerful cultivators shouted in unison. Their aura was so powerful that it seemed like they were going to turn the Supreme Palace upside down. The cultivation of these god pillars ranged from Tao Ancestor to Origin Fusion Divine Lord. After all, many divine ranges were powerful. Their top combat power was Tao Ancestor. Zhou Xuanji looked around and said, "Next, I will talk about the future plans of the Kunlun Origin Court. My goal is not just the Kunlun Origin Court and the world below. I want to break out of the Kunlun Origin Court. I believe everyone has more or less heard that there are other realms outside the Kunlun Origin Court. They were created by the sages. Before this, Sovereign Darkness and Sovereign Wu Zhou had been outside. I want to make the Kunlun Origin Court stronger and surpass all the previous eras." Everyone in the palace was dumbfounded. Zhou Xuanji's words made them feel like they were coming from the Arabian Nights. Hold on. According to the sovereign, could it be that there were other realms outside the Kunlun Origin Court that could threaten the safety of the Kunlun Origin Court? Surprise, fear, and excitement filled their hearts, making them feel very confused. The 12 ancestors looked at each other. They could see the excitement in each other's eyes. They were already aware of the threat of other realms. If it was Sovereign Wu Zhou who said this, they would only be worried. But since it was Zhou Xuanji, they somehow believed him. They saw a kind of hope in Zhou Xuanji, and a kind of domineering aura that Sovereign Wu Zhou did not have. He had become a sovereign at the age of 2,000. Such brilliance had never been seen before. Also, after the God Pillars matter is settled, I will leave the Kunlun Origin Court, Zhou Xuanji continued. Zhou Xuanji continued to speak. With these words, everyone was shocked. Leave? The 12 ancestors were the most terrified. They had already experienced the dark period without sovereigns. They did not want to experience it again. Sovereign, you. The ancestors hurriedly tried to persuade Zhou Xuanji. But just when they opened their mouths, they saw Zhou Xuanji raise his hand. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, "It's not that I won't return. This is an invitation from a great sovereign. Do you understand what a great sovereign is? It's someone who is as powerful as me, or even more powerful than me. He has gathered dozens of great sovereigns. I'm going to understand the situation outside the Kunlun Origin Court. Everyone was dumbfounded by his words. Dozens of great sovereigns. Their first reaction was that Zhou Xuanji had gone crazy. Everyone, the Kunlun Origin Court has just been attacked by 3 great sovereigns. We can't be like before. We can't just sit and wait for death. The next plan is for all the divine ranges to stop all wars. All of you must cultivate hard. Without my order, if any divine range dares to start a war, I will annihilate them. Zhou Xuanji said in a deep voice. His domineering aura made all the god pillars tremble in fear. When you go back, tell your range masters that not only must everyone cultivate hard, but so must the range masters and god pillars. All of you go back. Origin Court divine soldiers will come to hand over various tasks to you. Just when he finished speaking, Zhou Xuanji waved his right hand and teleported everyone out. Below the sovereign plane, the god pillars and the 12 ancestors were stunned in the air. They looked at each other in dismay and did not speak for a long time. After a long while, an origin fusion divine lord sighed in amazement. Our sovereign is really amazing. I'm afraid that if we follow him, we will really surpass the past and present. Chapter 881. Yes, although it was very risky, his decisiveness was indeed very impressive. The previous Supremes never had such foresight like him. That's right. I'm starting to look forward to the future Kunlun Origin Court. That's good too. Without the war, everyone can cultivate in peace. Wouldn't it be inappropriate for a sovereign to meet dozens of grand sovereigns rashly? Don't worry. If he was so rash, he would have died long ago. How old is the Sword Emperor? It's impossible to reach this step by relying on talent alone. The divine pillars discussed spiritedly, most of them extremely excited. Senior May turned around, looked at them, and said in a clear voice, "All right, everyone, supremacy has already confided in you. The future of the Kunlun Origin Court is in the hands of all of us. I hope that you will live up to supremacy's expectations and benefit the Kunlun Origin Court. Go back now." Yes. The divine pillars saluted and left one after another. The 12 law ancestors did not tarry and left together. Very soon, the various divine ranges announced a ceasefire. They responded to the Sword Thearcha's call and cultivated diligently together. Under Zhou Xuanji's command, the Origin Court began to build momentum. All kinds of news about the Outer Court domain and the Great Supreme were circulating in the Origin Court. Cultivating for the Kunlun Origin Court. This sentence resounded throughout the Kunlun Origin Court at an extremely fast speed, becoming a declaration passed down by all living beings. Everyone in the Origin Court admired Jizun. Such a method was truly powerful. He could easily unite all living beings into an iron plate, and at the same time, he had also aroused the enthusiasm of all living beings to cultivate. When the news reached Emperor Sword Divine Range, all the disciples were proud. Zhou Xuanji could decisively change the Kunlun Origin Court as soon as he became a sovereign. This had already surpassed many sovereigns. Most of the Supreme Venerables would be cautious for a period of time after they took up their positions. They wanted to take care of the feelings of the various divine ranges. This was because the majority of Supremes were able to ascend to their current positions thanks to the support of some divine ranges. But Zhou Xuanji's decision was to treat everyone equally. He did not give special consideration to any divine range. Such a supreme being could convince all living beings. Several years later, Zhou Xuanji tore open space-time and came to the outside of the Kunlun Origin Court. He walked slowly in the boundless darkness. The Emperor's sword and soul Kunlun sword levitated by his side, giving off black, white, and red lights that illuminated the surrounding 100 kilometers. He was like the sun. Wherever he went, there would be light. "Xiao," a voice came. Zhou Xuanji did not need to look to know that it was Zhou Fa. Zhou Fa quickly flew over and said respectfully, "Jizun, you've come." Now, he did not dare to do anything overboard when facing Zhou Xuanji. He nonchalantly glanced at the Life and Death Emperor sword and the Soul Kunlun sword. He was shocked. This kind of treasure. He was also a person who loved swords, but this was the first time he had seen such a divine sword. If it weren't for his rationality warning him, he would have continued to stare at the two swords. Lead the way. Zhou Xuanji instructed indifferently. He used to be interested in Zhou Fa, but now he had no interest at all. He had seen through Zhou Fa's identity. Back then, he had experienced a great war in the northern wilderness region and ended up in a village, teaching the children there. One of the children wanted to be his disciple, so he taught the villagers how to practice the sword. What was worth mentioning was that this kid had another identity. Ji Xian. To him, this name was like a star in the sky, a legend. Later on, Ji Xian accidentally entered the space-time turbulence and accidentally flew out of the Kunlun origin court, encountering the Darkness Sovereign. All of this could only be seen after Zhou Xuanji became the sovereign. His soul source had already reached the pinnacle, and he could see Zhou Fa's past with just a glance. Zhou Fa flew in front, not daring to look back. After leaving the dark area, they entered a universe space that was constantly changing between green and red. This place was filled with a kind of scorching energy gas. If one didn't reach the Saint Realm, they would be turned into ashes immediately. Zhou Xuanji scanned this universe with his divine will. At this moment, his two divine swords suddenly vibrated. Zhou Fa, who was in front, heard the commotion. His body immediately stiffened. Ha ha ha! You are the sovereign of the Kunlun origin court, Zhou Xuanji. A burst of heroic laughter came. Zhou Xuanji and Zhou Fa turned their heads to look. A man in a yellow robe walked over. His body was surrounded by runes of blue light, and he wore a divine beast crown on his head. His eyes were brimming with vigor as he stared at Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Fa's expression changed the moment he saw him. How come it's him? Zhou Fa's eyes widened as waves of shock surged in his heart. Zhou Xuanji asked with a smile, "Who are you?" His divine will captured Zhou Fa's expression. It seemed that Zhou Fa wasn't in the same camp as this person. You can call me Han Jingu. I once went to the Kunlun origin court and gave pointers to a kid. That kid is called Daohu. I don't know if he's dead or alive. The man in the yellow robe explained with a smile. The yellow-robed man said with a smile. He was very generous. He came to Zhou Xuanji's side and sized him up before praising. What a good soul origin. The sword Dao you created is very good. I once met a great sovereign with great attainments in the sword Dao. This time, I can introduce you to him. Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes. His attention was attracted by Daohu. It turned out that Daohu had received pointers from this great sovereign. No wonder he was so powerful. He curiously asked, "What do you think about the sovereign's opportunity?" Han Jingu replied, "It doesn't matter whether it's true or not. You should be thinking the same thing. The courtyard realms are very far away from each other, and the various domains are in different planes. It's also what every single great supreme being wants to gather here. There are many existences like Xin Yinxing. Most of the great sovereigns were still uneasy. It would be a good thing if they could get to know more great sovereigns." Zhou Xuanji nodded and started chatting with Han Jingu. The three of them continued to move forward. Zhou Fa flew in front, extremely nervous. His back was drenched in cold sweat as he tried to remain calm. "This kid is your son? He looks like you, but his aura isn't from you. He has many kinds of powers in his body, and this isn't a good thing. Sooner or later, he'll play himself to death." Han Jingu looked at Zhou Fa and asked mockingly. When Zhou Fa heard this, his body stiffened, and he felt very unnatural. Zhou Xuanji replied with a smile, "It's not my son. He was also sent by a great sovereign. If it wasn't for that great sovereign, I'm afraid I wouldn't have come." Hearing this, Han Jingu's interest was piqued. He shouted, "Hey kid, what's the name of the great supreme being behind you?" Zhou Fa turned around and said respectfully, "Senior, I don't know either. I was caught as soon as I left the Kunlun origin court. He never revealed his name to me." Han Jingu frowned, his eyes turning sharp. Zhou Fa didn't dare to look him in the eye and quickly turned his head away. The atmosphere became silent. Zhou Xuanji had a smile on his face, but he was on guard in his heart, in case Han Jinggu attacked at any moment. This guy was too close to him. This wasn't a distance that should exist when they first met. However, he wasn't too afraid. Han Jinggu was very strong, but he didn't feel a great threat. Han Jinggu suddenly said, "I'm afraid this meeting won't be as good as we thought. If there is a fight, Brother Zhou, how about you and I join hands?" Chapter 882. That's naturally a good thing. Thank you for taking a liking to me. Zhou Xuanji nodded with a smile at Han Jinggu's request. If Han Jinggu hadn't made this request, he might have thought too much about it. Now it seemed that Han Jinggu's interest in him came from finding helpers. Ha ha. All right. If you and I join hands, we will definitely be able to turn misfortune into fortune. Han Jinggu laughed out loud. He was in a good mood. Following this, he became even more enthusiastic and began to tell Zhou Xuanji about his experiences outside the court. Han Jinggu also came from a Fang court realm, and the ancestor of that Fang court realm was an ancient sovereign of the Kunlun origin court. It was very difficult for the vast majority of supreme beings to die, which was why they all established their own Dao realms that were scattered across different planes. It was very difficult to find all of them. Outside of the court realm, the hegemons and grand autarchs of the court realm were divided into different levels of power. Generally speaking, it could be divided into 9 courts. One court was the weakest, and the other 9 were the strongest. The grand paragons of the 9 halls needed to create or control the realms of the 9 halls. Once the destiny of the 9 halls fused together, their strength would reach the pinnacle. Zhou Xuanji asked curiously, "It's very difficult to control the other realms. I saw someone kill dozens of sovereigns." Han Jinggu shook his head and said, "The supreme martial artist that person killed should have included Origin Supreme Martial Artists as well. It's impossible for all of them to be Grand Supreme Martial Artists. Besides, killing Grand Supreme Martial Artists is much more difficult than controlling other court realms. That's because our souls aren't limitless and can only withstand a single court realm. Furthermore, court realms and court realms will repel each other because of our luck. Since ancient times, how many Grand Supreme Martial Artists have died because they try to forcefully fuse with court realms? Was this the great sovereign's way of playing him to death?" Zhou Xuanji suddenly wanted to ask Little Sovereign, "Did he die like this back then?" They talked and laughed along the way, so it was not boring at all. The one who suffered the most was Zhou Fa. He couldn't hide his flustered emotions at all, and his body kept trembling. Zhou Xuanji was very curious if he was under some kind of evil spell. After all, Zhou Fa wasn't a greenhorn. He had dared to play around with the Kunlun Origin Court before. Even if he was afraid, he didn't need to go to this extent. They flew for about 20 hours. Zhou Fa suddenly hugged his head and screamed. He stopped and curled up in pain. Zhou Xuanji frowned and immediately used his divine sense to scan his body. TSK. As expected, he suffered the backlash of the power. This brat is a pitiful worm, to actually be cast with such a sinister curse. He will forever be reduced to a puppet, unable to escape the control of the caster. Han Jinggu said, taking pleasure in Zhou Xuanji's misfortune. He could tell that Zhou Xuanji did not take Zhou Fa seriously. Their relationship was quite strange, which was why he mocked Zhou Fa directly. Zhou Xuanji asked, "Can you recognize the person behind this technique?" Han Jinggu shook his head and said, "I don't know him, but we will meet him later." With a wave of his right hand, a white light flew out from his sleeve and entered Zhou Fa's body. Zhou Fa's body suddenly stretched out, and his screams came to an abrupt end. He looked at his hands in pleasant surprise, turned around, and said excitedly, "Thank you for your help, Senior. No need, I can only help you suppress it for a while. Continue to lead the way, this is your only value." Han Jinggu waved his hand, his expression disdainful. He was too lazy to say another word to Zhou Fa. Zhou Fa quickly turned around, and the 3 of them continued forward. Zhou Xuanji asked curiously, "Since you were also invited, don't you know the route?" Zhou Fei's speed was really too slow. No hurry. It might not be a good thing to go earlier. I also want to see who is behind this brat. Han Jinggu shrugged with a smile, which made Zhou Fei's heart shudder. Zhou Xuanji thought about it. Although they were already very familiar with each other, he still could not tell what Han Jinggu was thinking. In the blink of an eye, about 7 days passed. They came to another cosmic domain. The top of the universe was bright ahead, and countless pink petals floated down. At a glance, there were many floating islands of different sizes. They saw a dragon with 2 heads. Its body was thousands of meters long, and it was coiled in one place. It was sleeping peacefully, and the dragon scales on its body were giving off a terrifying cold light. Other than this old dragon, there were many other giant beasts hiding in this cosmic space. The destination is ahead. Zhou Fei pointed an archipelago far away and said with a nervous expression. There were a total of 12 floating islands in that archipelago. They were like beads strung together. The floating island in the middle was the largest. It was filled with majestic spiritual qi and was surrounded by clouds and mist. Zhou Xuanji had already sensed a dozen powerful auras, and none of them were weaker than him. He was shocked in his heart. They are really great sovereigns. Han Jinggu's expression was also a little unnatural. Apparently, he was also shocked. 2 great sovereigns come in, a majestic voice came. A majestic voice came. Having heard this, Zhou Xuanji and Han Jinggu immediately flew over, while Zhou Fei stayed where he was. At the same time, beside a lake in the archipelago, short tables were placed on the ground, and a total of 17 Grand Supremes were sitting on each of them, in a meditative posture. Among them, 16 great sovereigns were facing one person. That person had white hair and a youthful face. He was wearing a white robe with peach blossom patterns. He stroked his beard and said with a smile, "The new sovereign of Kunlun Origin Court is coming. Everyone, prepare to welcome him." As soon as he said this, the 16 great sovereigns turned around and looked. Shen Yinxing was among these sovereigns. She furrowed her brow with a weird look on her face. He has become the great sovereign of the court realm? How long has it been? She was shocked by Zhou Xuanji's rapid progress. She originally thought that it would take Zhou Xuanji tens of thousands of years, or even longer, to officially become a great sovereign of the court. She didn't expect him to succeed now. What has he experienced? Just as she was in shock, Zhou Xuanji and Han Jinggu flew over and landed in the middle of the great sovereigns. "I'm Han Jinggu. Greetings, everyone." Han Jinggu took the lead and saluted with cupped hands. His expression was calm as he glanced at everyone present. Zhou Xuanji followed suit and announced his name. He was also shocked by the appearance of Shen Yinxing. Why is this girl here? This is troublesome. Based on his understanding of Shen Yinxing, this girl would definitely find trouble with him. Sure enough, noticing Zhou Xuanji's peripheral vision, Shen Yinxing revealed a dangerous smile, which made people shudder. Good. 2 fellow Taoists, please take a seat." The old man in the white robe waved his hand and said with a smile. Immediately afterward, 2 short tables appeared out of thin air on the right of Shen Yinxing. Zhou Xuanji's eyelids twitched as he followed Han Jinggu. Han Jinggu's eyes lit up when he saw Shen Yinxing. He walked up to Shen Yinxing and said with a smile, "Fairy, how about I sit next to you?" "No, let him sit," Shen Yinxing said expressionlessly. Shen Yinxing said expressionlessly, and Han Jinggu's face instantly froze. The other great sovereigns had a strange look on their faces. Their gazes shifted back and forth between Zhou Xuanji and Shen Yinxing. Han Jinggu burst into laughter before he walked to the short table next to him and sat down. Zhou Xuanji was helpless. He could only sit at the short table between the two. "Not bad. Your cultivation has risen so fast. I guess I can't use you as a cauldron now, right?" Shen Yinxing supported her chin with her right hand as she looked at Zhou Xuanji from the corner of her eyes. Chapter 883. Zhou Xuanji didn't answer Shen Yinxing, but glanced at the other great sovereigns. Those great sovereigns were also observing him. His identity as the sovereign of the Kunlun Origin Court made him the most eye-catching existence. I am Sovereign Xiaoyao. I used to be the sovereign of the Kunlun Origin Court. I have left the Kunlun Origin Court for billions of years. Sword Emperor, how is the Kunlun Origin Court now? A middle-aged man dressed like a scholar asked with a smile. His words surprised Zhou Xuanji. Sovereign Xiaoyao. This name also left behind a mark in the long river of history. He reigned for 3 billion years, taking in countless disciples, and the next supreme being was one of his disciples. Many profound methods were passed down from him, and for the cultivation of the later generations, it was of great use. Zhou Xuanji immediately cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Greetings, senior." No one would lie on such an occasion. Sovereign Xiaoyao was very happy. He chatted with Zhou Xuanji. The other sovereigns weren't idle either. They chatted with Han Jinggu. The atmosphere became lively. The old man in a peach blossom robe had been observing all the great sovereigns present with a smile on his face. He looked amiable without any shrewdness. Shen Yinxing didn't speak. She held her chin and looked at Zhou Xuanji. The expression in her eyes kept changing. No one could guess what she was thinking. After some communication, Zhou Xuanji got to know all the great sovereigns present. The old man in a peach blossom robe was called Su Aoshue. He had lived for many years. Some people guessed that he had the cultivation of the great sovereigns of the 3 courts. In this regard, he just smiled and said nothing. Su Aoshue was very calm. He didn't speak much. Most of the time, he let the great sovereigns present communicate freely. After an hour, another great sovereign arrived. This great sovereign's aura was unstable. He had obviously just broken through. In the face of so many great sovereigns present, he was a little nervous and a little nervous. Slowly, the great sovereigns began to talk about their experiences of becoming great sovereigns. Zhou Xuanji also listened carefully. He wanted to learn something from other people's experiences. Ding! The grade of the legendary swords has been successfully updated. The divine swords from low to high are divided into ordinary stone, black iron, bronze, silver, gold, amethyst, glorious gold, heavenly soul, intimidating spirit, celestial shaking, God slaying, Armageddon, ancient gazing, disaster releasing, heaven essence, overturning heaven, connecting heaven, 9 extremes, chaos, mysterious Tao, supreme marquee, vast sky, myriad life fusion, origin court, myriad flower origin court, lord of karma cauldron, and great destruction. The sword spirit's voice suddenly sounded out in Zhou Xuanji's mind, and he narrowed his eyes. Myriad flowers, origin court. Lord Karma Cauldron. The Great Apocalypse. The addition of 3 levels sounded impressive. Zhou Xuanji thought about these 3 names in detail, trying to find out the meaning behind them. This sovereign's opportunity is not that simple. Don't listen to Su Aoshue and agree to whatever he says. You'd better have the same attitude as me. Shen Yinxing transmitted her voice to Zhou Xuanji in a lazy tone. Zhou Xuanji ignored him again. 6 hours later, Shen Yinxing's voice floated into Zhou Xuanji's ears. Don't look at how harmonious these guys are. Maybe they will fight after leaving this island. He said nothing. 10 hours later, Shen Yinxing transmitted her voice. Among the people present, only Su Aoshue and Sovereign Xiaoyao are truly powerful. The others are just SOSO. Zhou Xuanji was speechless. He found it funny in his heart. This girl is really two-faced. I'm going to leave her hanging and see how much more she can say. Just like that, even if Zhou Xuanji didn't answer, Shen Yinxing would transmit her voice to him from time to time. Most of them were complaining about the sovereigns present. After a month, 33 great sovereigns gathered by the lake. Most of them maintained their human form, but some of them looked quite strange. It's almost time. Everyone has come from afar. Apart from making friends, you also want to know the whereabouts of the sovereign's opportunity, right? Su Aoshue slowly stood up with his hands on his knees. He glanced at all the great sovereigns and said with a smile, "We all know that there are 3 sovereigns' opportunities in countless planes. One can command all the great sovereigns, unify all the court realms, and usher in the golden age of the primeval sovereign. All the great sovereigns immediately sat up straight, waiting for him to continue. Zhou Xuanji was also very interested in the sovereign's opportunity. He had previously guessed that the supreme legendary sword system was transformed from one of the sovereign's opportunities, but he wasn't sure. The supreme legendary sword system, transformed from the primeval's opportunity, was indeed powerful, but needed to be strengthened step by step. There was no end to it. Compared with the rumored sovereign's opportunity, it was far from it. I found the news of this sovereign's opportunity from a destroyed plane. I don't know who its owner is, but the jade slip he left clearly recorded that there's a sovereign's opportunity in the Myriad Domain Devil Lair. Everyone should have heard of what the Myriad Domain Devil Lair is, Su Aoshua said leisurely. He put his hands behind his waist and walked to the front of the short table. All the sovereigns were shocked. Myriad Domain Devil Lair. The grumpy man almost slammed the table and stood up. Senior, are you sure you are not joking? Han Jinggu asked in a deep voice. His eyes were filled with anger. The other great sovereign's eyes also turned unfriendly. The previous harmony and cheerfulness had disappeared. Su Aoshua said with a smile, I'm not joking. Everyone, please calm down. Let me explain in detail. The Myriad Domain Devil Lair is an abyss left behind by the ancient sages when they created the universe. Anyone who enters will die. But have you ever thought about what kind of power could create such an abyss? Can't one jump to another plane after the universe is destroyed? I guess there must be something maintaining the Myriad Domain Devil Lair. It could devour great sovereigns. If it's not the sovereign's opportunity, what is it? His words made the great sovereigns frown deeply. No one who could reach the cultivation of great sovereign was a fool. The great sovereigns were already thinking about how to retreat. Zhou Xuanji was listening with great interest. It was his first time hearing about the Myriad Domain Devil Lair. He wanted to see how Su Aoshua would continue to make up stories. How could the clue of the sovereign's opportunity appear in a destroyed plane so casually? It was enough for him to come here and meet so many great sovereigns. Everyone, you may think that I am fooling you. After all, the sovereign's opportunity can only be obtained by one person. I may be using you. But you don't know that there have been many examples of people enjoying the sovereign's opportunity in history. You know about the 18 Purple Sky Formation, right? They shared the sovereign's opportunity. I learned about this from my revered master. He is the descendant of the 18 Purple Sky Formation. Su Aoshua continued. Facing the attitude of the sovereigns, he didn't get angry. He still had a smile on his face. Unfortunately, no one listened to him. Seeing this, he had to change the topic and said with a smile, Everyone, think about it first. Next, I will give you the wine that I brewed for 1 billion years. With a wave of his right hand, wine pots appeared on the short table in front of the great sovereigns. Zhou Xuanji stared at the wine pots vigilantly. It can't be poisonous, right? The eyes of the other great sovereigns flickered. They were weighing whether to drink it or not. Su Aoshua, have you ever been to the Myriad Domain Devil Lair? Shen Yinxing suddenly asked, instantly attracting everyone's attention. Chapter 884. Yes, I have. That's why I'm asking for your help. I've stayed at the edge of the 10,000 domain demon nest for hundreds of millions of years, and I know that the 10,000 domain demon nest has a stable period. During the stable period, the resentful demons and the demon tied inside will disappear. However, I can't be sure how long the stable period will be. Su Aoshua replied with a serious expression. He stared at Shen Yinxing and continued. This is an opportunity. It is already very difficult for you to become stronger. Don't you want to give it a try? I will go with you. The 10,000 domain devil lair is equally dangerous to you and me. I can't set up an ambush to harm you. His words made the other Grand Supremes fall into deep thought. That was right. No matter how strong Su Aoshua was, it was impossible for him to set up an ambush in the Myriad Domain Demon Lair. That was a dangerous place, and anyone who entered would die. Perhaps it wasn't certain death, but none of the creatures that rushed in managed to escape. Zhou Xuanji did not interrupt. He was not interested in the Myriad Domain Devil Lair. With his sharp senses, he could tell that this was a trap. If he was Su Aoshua, Even if he couldn't obtain the paragon's opportunity, he wouldn't leak it out. There were only two possibilities. Firstly, it was a lie. Secondly, he had already obtained the supreme opportunity. Therefore, no matter what Su Aoshua said, his heart would not waver. Shen Yinxing was also not interested in Su Aoshua's statement. She had a faint smile on her face and didn't point it out. Everyone, are you afraid that my wine is poisoned? Everyone here is a Grand Supreme. Yet you're afraid of cup of wine? Su Aoshua changed the topic and asked with a smile. Taunt. The faces of all the great Supremes fluctuated between green and red, hesitating as to whether or not they should drink it. Zhou Xuanji suddenly said, Of course we have to drink wine. Why don't we drink it after we succeed? Senior, when are we going to act? As soon as he said that, the other Grand Supremes also joined in. Exactly. The most important thing is the Paragon's opportunity. When are we leaving? This wine can be drunk at any time. Why now? Right now, I just want to find the Paragon's serendipity as soon as possible. That's right. We want to become an existence like the 18 Purple Dome formation. Ha ha. I like Sword Emperor's determination. I also agree. Hearing these words, Su Aoshua looked at Zhou Xuanji meaningfully. Then he laughed and said, That's right. That makes sense. He waved his right hand, and all the wine disappeared. The Grand Supremes felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders, and smiles reappeared on their faces. You're finished. He hates you. Shen Yinxing sent a voice transmission to Zhou Xuanji, gloating. Zhou Xuanji rolled his eyes at her and did not take it to heart. There were many people who opposed Su Aoshua, and there were also people who took the lead. Even if Su Aoshua wanted revenge, he would have to kill them one by one. After that, Su Aoshua began to explain his plan. There were still 10,000 years until the next stable period of the Myriad Domain Demon Lair. During this period of time, he hoped that every Grand Supreme could store a huge amount of divine power and seal it in the space within their bodies, soul planes, or divine treasure spaces. The great Supremes all agreed, and the banquet ended. They left in twos and threes, talking and laughing. Zhou Xuanji and Han Jinggu returned together, but Shen Yinxing wanted to follow. Looks like this fairy likes my brother Zhou. Han Jinggu winked and said with a teasing look. He wasn't jealous of Zhou Xuanji. With his identity, he didn't lack beautiful partners at all. Not only that, but Shen Yinxing was also very dangerous. How could he hope to be favored by Shen Yinxing? Shen Yinxing smiled gently and followed beside Zhou Xuanji like a little wife. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and burst into laughter. For some reason, he suddenly felt that Shen Yinxing was very cute. Previously, he was still thinking about how to fight against Shen Yinxing, but now he felt that she was not so hateful. No, this last was pretending. Zhou Xuanji warned himself in his heart to stay awake and not be confused by the divine star. In the past, Xian Xianghua was even more temperamental than Shen Yinxing. Never believe a woman's change, especially bad women. The three of them flew out of this plane and traveled through the space-time tunnel. After leaving the floating island, Zhou Xuanji found that Zhou Fei had disappeared. They were the first group of Grand Supremes to leave the floating island, which meant that Zhou Fei's master wasn't a guest Grand Supremes on the floating island. There was another possibility. Zhou Fei's master was Su Aoshua. We have to be careful. I can sense danger. Han Jinggu said in a solemn tone. Zhou Xuanji also sensed it. He spread out his divine sense, and the Emperor's sword of life and death and soul Kunlun's sword appeared behind him at the same time, giving off powerful might. Shen Yinxing looked at the two swords in surprise. She was surprised. What kind of sword is this? The three stopped talking and moved forward at full speed. They traveled through time and space. They had already forgotten the direction. They just wanted to get rid of the danger behind them. Aren't you very strong? Why are you afraid now? Zhou Xuanji couldn't help but tease. The other party hadn't made a move yet. It seemed that he was afraid. Once the three of them separated, the other party would definitely attack. Shen Yinxing curled her lips and said, How am I afraid? I just want to go back and see my sister. Is she your wife now? Han Jinggu raised his brow when he heard this. He laughed loudly and said, Oh, it turns out that you are in-laws. It seems that you can't separate. He deliberately said this to the existence that was following them. He wanted that guy to retreat. Shen Yinxing covered her mouth and chuckled, saying, "It's not just in-laws. I will marry him soon. He can become a grand sovereign thanks to my yin and yang technique." Han Jigu laughed even louder when he heard this. Zhou Xuanji was speechless. This girl is slandering me. However, he didn't explain. It was best not to explain now. After an hour, the killing intent disappeared. It seemed like the other party had given up. Han Jinggu sighed. This banquet is indeed full of danger. I wonder if it's Su Aoshue or the other Grand Supremes who can't see through it. If it was Su Aoshue, there was no need to go through so much trouble. That guy was still waiting for them to go to the Myriad Domain Demon Lair. It doesn't matter who it is. I've learned a lot from this banquet, and I'm very satisfied. As for the trip to the Myriad Domain Devil Lair, forget it. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and smiled. Han Jinggu nodded as well. To be able to get to know Brother Zhou and Goddess, I've gained a lot. Let's talk again in the future. Han Jinggu laughed. Zhou Xuanji asked in surprise, "You're leaving now?" Han Jinggu nodded. A pair of black wings sprouted from his back. He spread them and soared into the sky, quickly disappearing into the space-time turbulence. Brother Zhou, no, Sword Emperor, the outside world of the court realm is very vast, and it is also very confusing. One day, you and I will definitely meet again. I believe that at that time, you will surprise me. Han Jinggu left, leaving behind only his hearty laughter. Shen Yinxing jokingly said, "This guy is very dangerous." Fortunately, he left. Zhou Xuanji doubtfully asked, "What do you mean?" Han Jinggu gave him a good impression. But from what Shen Yinxing said, Han Jinggu was far more unfathomable than he thought. Chapter 885. Can't you see? That killing intent isn't directed at you, but at Han Jinggu. This guy pretends to be there to protect you, but in reality, TSK. Shen Yinxing smiled contemptuously. No one knew who she was looking down on. Zhou Xuanji couldn't help but think. It seemed that he hadn't incurred the hatred of the other grand sovereigns. That's good too. It's better to avoid trouble. Then, he and Shen Yinxing continued to fly forward. Zhou Xuanji had left a demon god avatar in the sovereign plane, so he could clearly sense the location of the Kunlun origin court. There were simply too many cosmic domains outside the court. Even a Grand Supreme could easily get lost. Along the way, Shen Yinxing didn't ask Zhou Xuanji how he broke through to Great Sovereign, nor did she mention anything about what had happened before. She told Zhou Xuanji about her experiences outside the court, and Zhou Xuanji was very interested in all sorts of amazing things. The universe domain outside the court was collectively known as the Boundless Universe. No one knew exactly how big the boundless cosmos was because countless generations of great sovereigns have been opening up their own worlds, expanding the boundless cosmos. Most of the past supremes of the Kunlun origin court were still alive, and they had already created their own court realms. Because of this, the Kunlun origin court was widely known in the endless universe. It was known as the origin of all living beings. Shen Yinxing's attitude toward Zhou Xuanji had improved significantly. Every time Zhou Xuanji asked her about something, she would patiently answer him. Time passed quickly. Half a month later, the two returned to the Kunlun origin court. "I'll go take a look at Golden Crown Divine Lord first. Don't worry about me." After dropping this sentence, Shen Yinxing disappeared. Zhou Xuanji smiled and returned to the sovereign plane. At this moment, Xian Xianghua and Jiang Shui were sitting side by side on the cliff, facing the vast sky as they cultivated. Supremacy Crimson Dust stood behind them, her red dress fluttering in the cool breeze. It was as if she was wrapped in red flames, looking extremely beautiful. The mortal world is the secular world, and the secular world is everywhere. When you cultivate, you can think back to the past. Autar Crimson Dust said slowly as he stared off into the horizon. She smiled because she saw Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji smiled at her from afar and said nothing. He flew into the Supreme Palace silently to cultivate. Sovereign Hong Chun did not interrupt Xian Xianghua and Jiang Shui's cultivation. He continued to explain to them. Several years later, Sovereign Crimson Dust said, "All right, let's end our cultivation here. The Sword Emperor has returned. You can go and see him." After saying that, Supreme Hongshun turned into a wisp of Hongshun Qi and dissipated. Jiang Shui and Xian Xianghua looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. They immediately turned into two rays of light and flew away. Inside the hall, Zhou Xuanji sat on the golden throne and looked at the Soul Kunlun sword floating in front of him, deep in thought. Jiang Shui and Xian Xianghua flew into the hall and landed beside him. "Why didn't you tell us that you were back?" Xian Xianghua rebuked, while Jiang Shui looked at him affectionately. They did not expect Zhou Xuanji to come back so soon. This was good as well. They did not have to worry too much. Zhou Xuanji pulled them into his embrace and told them what had happened during this period of time. After he finished speaking, the two women were filled with emotion. "I didn't expect that there would be such a big world outside the Kunlun Origin Court. It seems like the sages of the past really couldn't stop." Throughout history, the vast majority of sovereigns would leave the Kunlun Origin Court after they abdicated to open up a new universe. They would never return. Over time, in the eyes of later generations, they had all died outside the court. Jiang Shui asked worriedly, "Will those great supremes target our Kunlun Origin Court, especially the one behind Zhou Fa?" Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said, "I don't think so. Sovereign Wu Zhou has many enemies outside. Has he seen any of his enemies attacking? The Kunlun Origin Court should have some kind of protection, which is why it can exist for so long. After all, this is the origin of all living beings." Previously, Dark Sovereign hated the Kunlun Origin Court and was unable to extricate himself from the abyss of hatred. The Sword Emperor came from anti-Kunlun, and what he wanted to do was to occupy the Kunlun Origin Court's providence. Both of them were very special and couldn't be lumped together. The two ladies nodded. They felt that what Zhou Xuanji said made sense. How many sovereigns had gone out in the past? How could they not have enemies? If he wanted revenge, he would have come a long time ago. "From now on, all of you will follow me and cultivate." Zhou Xuanji let go of his hand and said with a gentle smile. The two ladies also smiled. Two treasure chairs appeared next to them, and they sat down. Zhou Xuanji closed his eyes and channeled his energy. In an instant, the two women felt that everything around them suddenly shattered. A majestic Tao energy enveloped them from all directions. So strong, Xian Xianghua's beautiful eyes widened as she mumbled to herself. Jiang Shui was also shocked. At this moment, they felt that their cultivation could be enhanced just by breathing. It was the first time they had encountered such a scene. Outside the Supreme Palace, on a floating island in the distance, Sovereign Hong Chun, who was strolling in the courtyard, suddenly stopped. He turned his head and looked at the giant mountain on the horizon, murmuring, "How strong are you now?" In a dark palace, golden-crowned Divine Lord was crawling on the ground, shivering. After so long, his body was wrapped in a layer of beast skin. It seemed that even his golden hair hadn't grown out. Shen Yinxing stood on the high platform in front of him, frowning. No one knew what she was thinking. Golden-crowned Divine Lord was uneasy. He gritted his teeth and said, "Master, it really has nothing to do with me. I have never been out of the world before, let alone know a great sovereign." His eyes fell on the ground. A small silver token was lying on the ground. A strange divine beast was carved on it. It looked like a tiger. Shen Yinxing took a deep breath and said, "Do you know what this is? This is the universe kill order. Once this order appears, the person being hunted will die without a doubt." "Where did you pick it up?" Golden Crown Divine Lord trembled in fear. He quickly replied, "I picked it up next to the Emperor's Sword Divine Range. I was very interested in Zhou Xuanji's Divine Range, so I went for a stroll. Then I met his son. We had a good chat. Just as we finished talking, this token tore the space and flew over. I took it away." His heart was filled with regret. Previously, he felt that this token was exquisite and gorgeous, so he took it away and hung it around his neck. He didn't expect it to have such a background. Zhou Xuanji's son? Shen Yinxing's brow furrowed even more. She immediately disappeared. On the other side, on a meteorite outside the Emperor's Sword Divine range, Zhou Tanhua was practicing his sword. He held the sword with one hand as his figure kept moving. Lightning intertwined on the blade. The speed of the sword was as fast as the wind, causing the space to ripple like the surface of a lake under a strong wind. Shen Yinqing appeared above the meteorite, looking down at Zhou Tanhua below, sizing him up. "Huh," she suddenly cried out, looking a little surprised. Zhou Tanhua, who had already reached the Origin Fusion Divine Lord level, didn't notice her arrival. He was still focused on practicing his sword. After a while, Shen Yinqing had a complicated look in her eyes as she murmured, "Zhou Xuanji, I didn't expect your son to be so amazing." Chapter 886. Ever since he assumed the position of the Emperor's Sword Divine Range's master, Zhou Tanhua's cultivation had not fallen behind. He had let Douyo Old Man and Xiao Jinghong handle most of the affairs of the Divine Range for the time being. Only when there were big decisions would he ask Zhou Tanhua. Xiao Jinghong was now a deity pillar of the Emperor's Sword Divine Range. The 12 ancestors were very understanding. After knowing that Xiao Jinghong was Zhou Xuanji's only disciple, they chose Xiao Jinghong as a deity pillar straight away. No one in the Emperor's Sword Divine Range objected to this. Regardless of his identity, Xiao Jinghong's character was still trustworthy. Zhou Tanhua liked to study the Sword Dao and create his own Sword Dao magical ability. He even accepted some disciples in the Emperor's Sword Divine Range. Many disciples believed that his aptitude was not inferior to his father's. At this moment, he felt uneasy as he practiced his swordsmanship. He frowned slightly, feeling that something bad was about to happen. He suddenly stopped and looked up. There were no living creatures in the starry sky above the meteorite. Strange, he muttered to himself, then shook his head and continued to practice. Little did he know that someone was looking at him. Shen Yinqing was still floating above. She wrapped her divine power around herself and isolated the vision of the exterminating divine eyes. She watched for a while and then left. From beginning to end, she did not disturb Zhou Tanhua. As soon as she left, Zhou Tanhua's mood suddenly calmed down. Strange. Zhou Tanhua muttered to himself and subconsciously looked at the top of Origin Court. Could it be that his father was spying on him? But if it was his father, why would he feel uneasy? Sovereign Plain. Shen Yinqing sneaked in without anyone noticing and broke into the Supreme Hall. Upon seeing her, Xian Xianghua and Jiang Shui immediately stood up and prepared to fight. Zhou Xuanji raised his hand and motioned for them to calm down. "TSK, isn't it blissful to cultivate with your two wives?" Shen Yinqing teased, but a strange light flashed in her eyes. Before Zhou Xuanji could reply, she threw out the Universe Kill Medallion, which floated in the air. "What is this?" Zhou Xuanji asked in astonishment. Jiang Shui and Xian Xianghua looked at each other and immediately guessed his identity. The younger sister of the Mortal World Supreme, Shen Yinqing, Universe Killing Order. Then, she introduced the origin of the Universe Kill Order to Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji frowned. Why had a Universe Killing Order appeared in the Kunlun Origin Court? Could it be that the mysterious existence that had been chasing after them hadn't given up? This kill order is aimed at your son. His talent is extraordinary, just like yours. However, you have already become a supreme being and have the protection of the Origin Court. But he is different. I reckon that he has already appeared in the calculations of many great supreme beings. Shen Yinqing said meaningfully, making Zhou Xuanji fall into deep thought. Jiang Shui asked, "Is there a way to solve it?" Shen Yinqing glanced at her and said casually, "We can only wait for the other party to come to our door. We can't escape, but the other party may be afraid of the Kunlun Origin Court. For the time being, let him stay in the Kunlun Origin Court with peace of mind. Don't run out." She had a good impression of Zhou Tanhua. He was like Zhou Xuanji's youth. With his cultivation, can he leave the Origin Court? Xian Xianghua coldly snorted as if she was despising Shen Yinqing's ignorance. For some reason, she instinctively resisted Shen Yinqing. He felt that this woman was very annoying, because when she saw this woman, she inexplicably thought of herself in the past. Shen Yinxing smiled and stopped talking. Other than that, is there anything else? Zhou Xuanji asked, his eyes fixed on Shen Yinxing. Shen Yinxing smiled and said, "Of course." As her voice fell, she suddenly turned into a gust of wind and rushed towards Xian Xianghua. Clang! Zhou Xuanji appeared in front of Xian Xianghua out of thin air. Holding the Emperor's sword of life and death, he blocked Shen Yinxing's right hand. Shen Yinxing's nails were so beautiful, but they were as hard as the Emperor's sword of life and death. Her fingertips collided with the blade of the sword, causing the blade to tremble. She followed suit and retreated, clicking her tongue in wonder. Your strength is not like that of a great sovereign who has just entered the court realm. Zhou Xuanji coldly asked, "What do you want to do?" The Kunlun's soul sword appeared behind him, emitting a red light with a trace of green smoke. Shen Yinxing covered her mouth and laughed. Her smile was so beautiful. She turned around and walked towards the gate. Xian Xianghua wanted to say something, but hesitated. She wanted to step forward to stop her, but was stopped by Zhou Xuanji. In the Kunlun Origin Court, you had better not cause trouble. Otherwise, don't blame me for not considering our old relationship and fighting to the death with you, Zhou Xuanji reminded. He could see that Shen Yinxing didn't have any killing intent towards Xian Xianghua. But because of this, he felt a headache. What is this girl thinking all day long? Shen Yinxing laughed heartily as she disappeared. Her aura was still in the sovereign plane. He reckoned that she had gone to find Sovereign Hong Chun. Xuanji, will she? Jiang Shui asked worriedly. She didn't finish her sentence, but Zhou Xuanji understood what she meant. He shook his head and said, "Don't worry, she will know what to do. She has come to the Kunlun Origin Court more than once. She has only killed Sovereign Kong Sheng." From Shen Yinxing's words, he could infer that the Kunlun Origin Court was feared by the endless universe, and also by Shen Yinxing. In the dark void, Su Aoshue was walking in the air, followed by Zhou Fa and B Sovereign. Zhou Fa and B Sovereign, who used to be insufferably arrogant in the past, were like two walking corpses at this moment. Their heads were lowered and their temperament was decadent. Su Aoshue looked ahead. His eyes were as indifferent as water. He faintly asked, "Your Excellency, how long are you going to follow me?" Just as his voice fell, a silver crack appeared 100 feet away on the left. A white thigh poked out, followed by a beautiful woman wearing a cheongsam. Her silvery hair was fluttering in the wind. Her face was devastatingly beautiful. The corners of her red lips were raised. She looked extremely enchanting. As soon as he saw her, Su Aoshue couldn't help but frown. He asked in a deep voice, "Qilin Demon, why are you following me?" Qilin Demon covered her mouth and giggled. "I heard that you have information about the Sovereign's opportunity. Why don't you tell us Qilin 9 absolutes? We will give you a universe kill order in the future. How about it?" Su Aoshue frowned and didn't answer immediately. Zhou Fa and Beast Sovereign nervously looked at Qilin Demon. As soon as this woman appeared, they inexplicably felt as if they were facing death. Their bodies turned cold and stiff, unable to move. Universe kill order, it's really a big deal. But why do you Qilin 9 absolutes trust me so much? Su Aoshue asked with a faint smile. His eyes were filled with fear. He kept thinking about countermeasures in his mind. Qilin Demon slowly walked over and said with a smile, "It's our business whether we believe it or not. You only have one choice." Threat. Su Aoshue didn't get angry. Instead, he smiled and said, "Okay, I agree." Qilin Demon smiled even more happily when she heard this. She was so beautiful, but Su Aoshue and the other two couldn't have any evil thoughts. At this moment, the three just wanted to escape as soon as possible. "It just so happens that I'm planning to go to the Kunlun Origin Court. Why don't you accompany me, lest I can't deal with that sovereign?" Qilin Demon smiled. She stopped less than 10 feet away from Su Aoshue. This distance made Su Aoshue frown. Chapter 887. Why are you going to the Kunlun Origin Court? Su Aoshue asked. His memory of Zhou Xuanji was still fresh. Although Zhou Xuanji was young, his divine energy was very pure. If they fought in the Kunlun Origin Court, it would be very difficult to win. Every Grand Supreme was invincible in their respective court realm, unless the difference in strength was more than 3 courts. The Qilin demon blinked his eyes and said, "Another peerless genius has appeared in the Kunlun Origin Court, and there are still 2 of them. However, the strongest one has already become a sovereign and cannot be interfered with. The other one is still growing. Someone asked us, the Qilin 9 Absolutes, to eliminate that brat." As soon as he said this, Zhou Fa and Beast Sovereign's expressions changed drastically. Zhou Xuanji and Zhou Tanhua. Su Aoshue wasn't surprised. The Kunlun Origin Court had produced peerless geniuses since ancient times, so it wasn't strange for 2 of them to appear at once. However, he was very curious as to who had invited the Qilin 9 Absolutes. If one wanted to invite the Qilin 9 Absolutes, one would have to pay a huge price. The Qilin Enchantress laughed mockingly and said, "The other party revealed your supreme being opportunity before we were willing to make a move." Su Aoshue's face changed drastically, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Who was the one who leaked it? Could it be the great sovereigns he had invited before? Didn't those guys not believe it? The more Su Aoshue thought about it, the angrier he got. On second thought, he didn't have the ability to enter the Myriad Domain Demon Lair at the moment, so it wasn't a bad idea to let the Qilin 9 Absolutes go. He even got a universal kill order because of it. In the boundless universe, the value of a universe kill order was immeasurable. This was also the reason why the 9 Absolutes Qilin could look down on everyone. Once the universe killing order was issued, no matter how many great Hall Supremes you were, you would definitely die. Kunlun Origin Court is the origin of the gods. Are you planning to barge in directly? Su Aoshue tilted his head to look at Qilin Mei and asked doubtfully. He had interacted with Zhou Xuanji before. Zhou Xuanji was definitely a ruthless character. He looked gentle, but his eyes were sharp. To be able to come this far, he must have stepped on countless bones. Qilin smiled charmingly and said, "You will understand when the time comes." Afterward, the 4 of them walked toward the Kunlun Origin Court. Sovereign Plain. Zhou Xuanji, Jiang Shui, Xian Xianghua, Red Dust Sovereign, and Shun Yinxing sat together. The atmosphere was a little quiet. Shun Yinxing crossed her arms in front of her chest, glanced at the 4 people, and said with a smile, "What's wrong? Are you very nervous?" Autar Crimson Dust asked, "Why have you gathered us here?" She looked at her younger sister helplessly. In the past, Shun Yinxing was obedient to her, listened to her everything, and regarded her as the only dependence. Now, there was a deep estrangement between the 2 sisters. Even now, it had not been completely eliminated. Zhou Xuanji was very calm, waiting for Shun Yinxing to speak. "Naturally, it's for your son. During this time, I have been calculating and found that the killing intent against Zhou Tanhua is approaching. I want to accept Zhou Tanhua as my disciple. Do you have any objections?" She had seen Zhou Tanhua and felt that his aptitude was really strong. He might be the next Zhou Xuanji. "No," Xian Xianghua refused without hesitation. Sovereign Hong Chun also furrowed her brow. She couldn't figure out her sister's true intentions. If Zhou Tanhua was harmed, how would she face Zhou Xuanji? Zhou Xuanji laughed unpleasantly. "He has me as his father. Why does he need to take me as his master?" Shun Yinxing stared at him and said in a serious tone, "His aptitude is not inferior to yours, but you have already become a sovereign. If he stays in the Kunlun Origin Court, it will only limit his development. I will take him to see my revered master, so that he can grow up quickly." Hearing this, Zhou Xuanji fell into deep thought. He naturally had expectations for his children, but it was too dangerous to leave the Kunlun Origin Court. Sovereign Hong Chun solemnly asked, "Yinxing, you have to consider this matter seriously. There are still people hunting Tanhua outside." Jiang Shui kept staring at Shun Yinxing without saying a word, as if she wanted to see through her. Xian Xianghua, who was a little angry, also calmed down. If what Shun Yinxing said was true, This would be Zhou Tanhua's opportunity. If I want to target him, I can take him away at any time without anyone knowing. Do I still need to discuss with you? Shen Yinxing said in annoyance. She had good intentions, but these guys didn't believe her. She suddenly thought of leaving. Do you have a way to avoid the universe kill order? Zhou Xuanji asked. He really wanted to take out the truth sword to test it, but he felt that it would be too insulting to Shen Yinxing. What's more, can the true sword work on great sovereigns? Shen Yinxing nodded and said, I have a way to hide his fate. Although it's only for a while, it's enough for me to rush to my revered master's range. At that time, even the 9 absolutes of Qilin who issued the universe kill order will not be able to kill him. Her tone was full of confidence, looking down on the 9 absolutes of Qilin. Zhou Xuanji thought for a moment before he waved his right hand, and Zhou Tanhua appeared behind him out of thin air. As soon as he saw the 5 people in front of him, Zhou Tanhua was stunned. He was still holding his sword with a dumbfounded look on his face. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, Sit down, I have something to discuss with you. Zhou Tanhua sat down between Zhou Xuanji and Xian Xianghua in a daze. Seeing him like this, Xian Xianghua couldn't help but touch his head. For some reason, she suddenly felt that this kid was really cute. Maybe it was because they might have to separate. Zhou Xuanji told Zhou Tanhua the ins and outs of the matter. After listening to the entire story, Zhou Tanhua's expression didn't change much. His calmness made Shen Yinxing and Sovereign Hong Chun look up to him. This kid was really like his father. Zhou Tanhua smiled and said, I'm willing to go. Leaving the Kunlun Origin Court can save the Kunlun Origin Court from calamity. At the same time, I can also obtain opportunities. He looked at Xian Xianghua, raised his eyebrows, and said with a smile, Mother, it seems like the position of branch master is destined to belong to you. When Xian Xianghua heard this, she pinched his ear reproachfully. At this time, this brat was still joking. If you go out, you will also be in danger. Don't be in a rush to make a decision, Zhou Xuanji said seriously. Zhou Tanhua nodded. Then he crossed his hands and closed his eyes in deep thought. Shen Yinxing burst out laughing. Zhou Xuanji, your son obviously has an idea, but he is still pretending. Is this inherited? He is so pretentious. As soon as he said this, the corners of Zhou Xuanji and Zhou Tanhua's mouth twitched. When Xian Xianghua and Jiang Shui saw this, they also laughed. It was indeed very similar. Ahem, then I've decided to leave. But before I leave, I want to see my sister. If I leave without saying goodbye, she'll definitely be very angry. Zhou Tanhua touched his nose and pretended to be serious. Zhou Xuanji nodded. With a wave of his right hand, Zhou Tanhua and Xian Xianghua disappeared at the same time. Shen Yinxing got up and said, It's settled then. Tell him to hurry up. I can feel the killing intent getting closer and closer. It won't be long before it arrives at the Kunlun Origin Court. As her voice fell, she gave Sovereign Hong Chun a look, and the 2 women immediately left. Jiang Shui moved to Zhou Xuanji's side and asked softly, Have you really decided? She also regarded Zhou Tanhua as her son. It was natural for her to be worried. Zhou Xuanji calmly said, A young eagle has to soar alone in the end. When I was his age, I had already begun to compete for the position of sovereign. The age gap between him and Zhou Tanhua wasn't big. At least in the Kunlun Origin Court, they could be brothers. Chapter 888. Zhou Tanhua and Xian Xianghua returned to the Emperor's Sword Divine Range to explain. In less than 3 days, he left with Shen Yinxing. The range master of the Emperor's Sword Divine Range was Xian Xianghua. After all, Zhou Shaoxian was too impatient, and Xiao Jinghong's cultivation wasn't high enough. It was difficult for him to support the majesty of the Emperor's Sword Divine Range. Zhou Xuanji sent them off. They came to the Dark Realm outside the Origin Court. Zhou Tanhua looked back at his father and said with a smile, Father, don't worry. When I come back, I will definitely become your right-hand man and strengthen the Kunlun Origin Court with you. He smiled confidently. There was no sadness of parting at all. In fact, he felt very sad in his heart. But in order not to drag Zhou Xuanji down, he felt that he had to act free and easy. Zhou Xuanji rubbed his head and said with a smile, "Then we have an agreement. You have to come back. Don't go away and never return." Looking at him, Zhou Xuanji inexplicably thought of himself. He used to be like Zhou Tianhua. Now, he was a sovereign, but he still couldn't cover the sky with one hand and protect his family. This made his heart a little heavy. Shen Yinxing, who was next to him, looked at the father and son. Her emotions were surging. She suddenly remembered the scene in the passageway between the two worlds. She looked at Zhou Xuanji with a complicated look in her eyes. After exhorting a few words, Zhou Xuanji let them set off. "Don't worry, I won't let him die." Shen Yinxing couldn't help but let out a cold snort when she saw Zhou Xuanji looking at Zhou Tianhua. She was a tyrannical existence who had hunted many great sovereigns. How could she be so weak and untrustworthy? Zhou Xuanji nodded before watching Shen Yinxing and Zhou Tianhua leave. Only after they disappeared into the darkness did he slowly retract his gaze. "If I find out who you are, I will make you regret it." Zhou Xuanji's eyes were cold as he muttered to himself. Zhou Xuanji's eyes were cold as he mumbled to himself. After that, he turned around and returned to the Kunlun Origin Court. Zhou Tianhua's departure didn't change anything. The Kunlun Origin Court was still the same. Zhou Xuanji also began to work hard on cultivating. With the 12 law ancestors and the god pillars, the order of the Kunlun Origin Court was restored. The various origin cities became lively again. Due to the prohibition of war, many living beings in the Kunlun universe came and went in an endless stream. The entire Kunlun Origin Court seemed to be flourishing with each passing day. The interactions between the divine ranges had also increased. If they couldn't start a war, they would hold a tournament to hone their combat abilities. The Origin Court turned a blind eye to this. Zhou Xuanji came out of closed-door cultivation and discovered this, and he did not know whether to laugh or cry. He sent a message to the 12 ancestors, telling everyone that they could fight, but they couldn't carry out a divine range war. Completely curbing the slaughter would only produce the opposite of the desired result. As long as it did not affect the divine ranges, Zhou Xuanji had no objections. Some people needed to fight to become stronger, while others needed to take revenge. These emotions could not be suppressed. Time flew by. Zhou Xuanji welcomed his 3,000th birthday. Analyzed that the sword owner has reached 3,000 years old. Gotcha started. Ding. Congratulations. The sword owner has obtained Myriad Flower Origin Court, 1,000 Worlds Banishing He Gemin Sword, Outer Soul Doppelganger. The sword spirit's voice sounded out in Zhou Xuanji's mind. He opened his eyes, which flashed with a purple light. The Myriad Flowers Origin Court that surpassed the Origin Court Reversal Divine Sword. Zhou Xuanji had a feeling. Currently, he was not qualified to use the 1,000 Realms Chaotic Executioner Sword. Soon, the sword's information appeared before his eyes. Sword name: 1,000 Realms He Gemin Slayer Sword Grade. Myriad Flower Origin Court Description: a peerless overlord sword formed by the fusion of 1,000 planes. It contains a horrifying power that can destroy everything. To use this sword, one must have at least the cultivation of the great sovereign of the 5 courts. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow. What did 1,000 planes refer to? Only the cultivation of the great sovereign of the 5 courts could use it. This showed how domineering this sword was. After that, he continued to inherit the Outer Soul Doppelganger. A stream of memories flowed into his mind, allowing him to quickly master this divine ability. The Outer Soul Doppelganger divine ability used soul telekinesis to manifest a doppelganger. The doppelganger's aura was exactly the same as the original body, making it difficult to distinguish the real from the fake. The strength of the original body was related to the amount of soul telekinesis consumed. The greatest advantage of this divine ability was that it was difficult to distinguish the real from the fake. Zhou Xuanji smiled satisfactorily. Not bad. Although he only received 1 legendary sword for his birthday, it was still a huge gain for him. He got up and walked out of the Supreme Palace. On the cliff, Jiang Shui had already prepared a table of dishes and wine, waiting for him. Seeing him walking over, Jiang Shui got up and said with a gentle smile, Xuanji, congratulations on reaching 3,000 years old. 3,000 years old. For mortals, this was such a long time. But in the Kunlun origin court, Zhou Xuanji was still not old enough to travel alone. Not only was Jiang Shui congratulating Zhou Xuanji, but the 12 ancestors were also busy. The entire Kunlun origin court congratulated Zhou Xuanji together. When everyone learned that Zhou Xuanji was only 3,000 years old, they were all dumbfounded. They knew that Zhou Xuanji was very young, but they didn't know his exact age. Now that they heard about it, they were all stunned. For a moment, Zhou Xuanji was praised as the most powerful genius in history. Congratulations to you too. You're already 3,004 years old, Zhou Xuanji said with a soft smile. Zhou Xuanji said with a soft laugh. He walked to Jiang Shui's side, held her hand, and sat on the bench. Jiang Shui poured wine for him. The two talked about the past while facing the majestic immortal mist. Since Zhou Tianhua left, Zhou Xuanji and Jiang Shui spent most of their time in closed-door cultivation. Under his guidance, Jiang Shui had already reached the Origin Fusion Divine Lord Stage 1. Although Zhou Xuanji's supreme divine power had been growing steadily, it was difficult for it to make a qualitative leap. According to Little Sovereign, if he wanted to break through to the great sovereign of the second court, he had to master another court. In other words, he had to leave the Kunlun origin court. However, the owner of the Universe Kill order hadn't arrived yet. He couldn't leave. The two talked about the past for a while. Then, the topic fell on their children. I wonder how Tianhua is now. He hasn't replied after leaving for so long, Jiang Shui said worriedly. She was most worried about Zhou Tianhua. As for Zhou Shaoxian, she was very safe in the Emperor's Sword Divine range. Zhou Xuanji swirled the wine glass and calmly said, He's fine. I have a hunch that he will surprise us the next time he comes back. Jiang Shui nodded and said with a smile, Just like you. Every time you disappear and come back, you will surprise everyone. Zhou Xuanji smiled proudly. Like father, like son. The more powerful Zhou Tianhua was, the more face he would have as a father. Sword Emperor, can you come out for a gathering? At this moment, Su Aoshue's voice suddenly came. Zhou Xuanji put down his wine glass. He softly said, I will go out for a while. Wait for me here. Having said this, he directly left the Kunlun origin court without waiting for Jiang Shui's response. In the dark domain, Su Aoshue, Qilin Demon, Zhou Fa, and Beast Sovereign were waiting. As soon as Zhou Xuanji appeared, the four's gazes quickly fell on him. The Qilin Demon looked at Zhou Xuanji with an evil smile on his face. He looked like a poisonous scorpion, making people shudder. Sword Emperor, long time no see. How have you been? Su Aoshue cupped his fists and said with a smile. He had an amiable look on his face. He was secretly surprised. How long has it been? This kid's aura has become stronger again. Chapter 889. Not bad. May I know why Senior Su is here? Zhou Xuanji asked as he bowed. He could not help but glance at the Qilin Mei. He could sense that this woman was very dangerous. She tried her best to suppress her murderous intent, but Zhou Xuanji could still sense it. This woman came with ill intentions. Su Aoshue immediately introduced the Qilin charm to Zhou Xuanji. After hearing that the Qilin charm was one of the Qilin 9 absolutes, Zhou Xuanji's eyes narrowed. The Universe Killing Order was created by the Qilin 9 absolutes. Zhou Xuanji was immediately filled with murderous intent. Sword Monarch, can I see your son? The Qilin Enchantress covered her mouth and smiled. Her demonic tone and expression seemed to have a deeper meaning. No, Zhou Xuanji shook his head. The Imperial Sword of Life and Death and the Soul Kunlun Sword appeared behind him. His gaze turned sharp. He wanted to fight. Zhou Fa and Beast Sovereign were secretly shocked, especially Beast Sovereign. In his eyes, Zhou Xuanji didn't seem to be any weaker than Su Aoshue. How long has it been? Beast Sovereign thought bitterly. Zhou Xuanji is growing too fast. Previously, when he heard Zhou Fa's words, he felt that it was unreal. Now that he had seen it with his own eyes, he was shaken to the core. His emotions were complicated, and he even wanted to find a hole to hide in. The more powerful Zhou Xuanji was, the more he would lose face. The Qilin demon laughed out loud. She laughed beautifully, as if she had heard a very funny joke. Su Aoshue frowned and transmitted his voice to Zhou Xuanji. The Qilin 9 absolutes are very powerful in the endless universe. Too many great sovereigns have died in their hands. Don't act recklessly. In his opinion, it was just a son. If he died, he could just have another one. It was not worth it to sacrifice his own life for this. Zhou Xuanji looked at the Qilin demon calmly, without any fear. As for Su Aoshue, he did not have a good impression of him. This matter had nothing to do with Su Aoshue. If he wasn't here to lead the way, was he here to be a mediator? In his heart, Su Aoshue was already his enemy. The Qilin charm's expression also calmed down. She no longer had a smile on her face as she said coldly, "If you are unwilling, the consequences will be unimaginable." Kunlun Origin Court? So what? The 9 absolute Qilin, were not afraid. You all acted for money and serendipity. If I pay a higher price to buy you all to kill your original employer, will that work? Zhou Xuanji asked. The Qilin enchantress shook her head and said, "We are selling the universe kill medallion. We only sell it and don't take it back. If you want to take revenge, you can also buy the universe kill medallion and let us kill that guy." It was really not a loss to sell and buy. The murderous intent in Zhou Xuanji's heart grew stronger. He was thinking about whether he should act directly. Qilin Mei was a little impatient and said, "Sword Emperor, since you can become a sovereign, you should be a smart person. Adapting to circumstances is the greatest ability to survive. Otherwise, no matter how talented you are, you will still die. To you, the Qilin 9 absolutes is a power that transcends dimensions. We will not destroy the Kunlun Origin Court because of its past. But what about you? Even Wu Zhou has to avoid me." Su Aoshue nodded. He looked so cowardly in Zhou Xuanji's eyes. Back at the banquet, Zhou Xuanji felt that Su Aoshue was unfathomable and had a deep understanding of the Tao. Now, it seemed that he had misjudged him. No matter how high one's cultivation was, without backbone, what kind of expert was he? It's useless to say more. Zhou Xuanji directly used the sword fusion technique. Except for the life and death Emperor Sword and the soul Kunlun Sword, all the other swords perfectly fused with his body, making his sovereign divine energy skyrocket. His aura reached its peak. Suddenly, a purple light lit up in the darkness behind him. Strands of purple light rushed over and quickly wrapped around him. The power of the Kunlun Origin Court. In the face of external forces, the Kunlun Origin Court would automatically help its sovereign. It was also Zhou Xuanji's first time using this power. He was inwardly shocked. This is too strong. No wonder little sovereign said that he wouldn't lose in the vicinity of his Origin Court. In an instant, his confidence exploded. He looked down on everything in his eyes. He raised his hands and grasped the life and death Emperor Sword and the soul Kunlun Sword. Purple light burst forth from his eyes. The aura of the Sword Emperor Sovereign was completely revealed. Su Aoshue and Qilin Mei were shocked at the same time. The Kunlun Origin Court is so strong. Qilin Mei was shocked. His eyes turned cold. Zhou Xuanji raised the life and death Emperor Sword and poured all the sovereign divine energy in his body into the blade. The next moment, sword light burst forth and rushed up with unstoppable momentum. Without any hesitation, the sword slashed down. Su Aoshue immediately waved his hand and fled with Shou Fa and B Sovereign. Qilin Mei raised her hand and slapped. Immediately, a universe kill order appeared in front of her out of thin air. It quickly grew bigger and blocked the sword chi for her. Boom! The violent sword chi forced Qilin Mei to retreat. She gnashed her teeth and murmured, "This guy." At this moment, she suddenly understood the truth of the legend. Her figure flickered and disappeared into thin air. The universe kill order directly shattered and turned into ashes. Zhou Xuanji, offending the 9 absolutes of Qilin won't end well. Today, I will let you go for the time being. The next time the 9 absolutes of Qilin come, they will not only kill your son, but also slaughter the Kunlun origin court. Qilin Mei's cold voice echoed in the dark domain for a long time. Zhou Xuanji didn't chase after them. He just sneered. It would take time for the 9 absolutes of Qilin to make a comeback. After all, the endless universe was so big. Even great sovereigns couldn't come and go easily. After confirming that the aura of Su Aoxue and Qilin Mei had completely disappeared, Zhou Xuanji returned to the sovereign plane. Jiang Shui was still waiting for him at the table. He appeared beside her and sat down. "What's the matter?" Jiang Shui asked as she poured wine for him. Zhou Xuanji told her everything that had happened. He looked calm and didn't panic at all. After he finished, Jiang Shui asked, "Can you deal with the 9 absolutes of Qilin?" Zhou Xuanji was able to force the Qilin Mei to retreat. This meant that he was very powerful, even in the endless universe. "I'm not sure, but we'll deal with it when it comes. Even if I say that the Tanhua isn't here, the 9 absolutes of Qilin will not give up." Zhou Xuanji shook his head. Jiang Shui nodded. She understood this too. She couldn't help but sigh. "Your enemies are too big. Even if we cultivate with all our might, we can't keep up with you." Following Zhou Xuanji was both blissful and sad. No matter what kind of disaster they encountered, Zhou Xuanji was there to handle it. But at the same time, no matter what kind of enemy they encountered, they could only watch from the sidelines. Zhou Xuanji saw the worry in her eyes and said with a smile, "Your role to me is not to kill enemies with me. It's also very important to appease the rear." Jiang Shui smiled helplessly. She rolled her eyes and suddenly thought of something. She said, "Should I go out and do something too?" Zhou Xuanji touched her nose and said with a smile, "Do what you want to do. I support you." Not to mention Jiang Shui, even Xian Xianghua, Zhou Tanhua, and Zhou Shaoxian would find it difficult to catch up with his cultivation. "Then give me a god position." Jiang Shui tilted her head and said. Jiang Shui tilted her head and pondered. She began to imagine her future plans. Chapter 890. After the Qilin 9 absolutes left, Zhou Xuanji returned to his daily cultivation. He arranged a deity position for Jiang Shui and asked the 12 ancestors to announce it to the entire Kunlun origin court. Xiqin goddess. Her job was to control the marriage in the origin court. In the Kunlun origin court, every creature was free in their emotions. But there could only be one Tao companion, just like a wife or a husband. Zhou Xuanji took Jiang Shui around the Kunlun origin court to choose a suitable female companion to serve her. This matter couldn't be handed over to the 12 ancestors, in case they were too cautious. This trip lasted for 3 years. Zhou Xuanji and Jiang Shui chose 18 female cultivators from different divine ranges. All of them had the cultivation of Origin Fusion Divine Lord. Each of them was calm and beautiful, worthy of Jiang Shui's identity. After returning to the sovereign plane, Zhou Xuanji guided the Kunlun origin court's fate into Jiang Shui's body, allowing her to see the fate of all living beings and find the most suitable marriage. Zhou Xuanji asked Jiang Shui to leave some variables. Some marriages couldn't be destined by the heavens. Everything should have variables for there to be hope. Jiang Shui opened her eyes and sighed. Fate is truly mysterious. How many people are willing to sacrifice their lives for their love? In the end, they only get the other party's indifference. How many infatuated men and women have been separated by the world? Love is truly difficult. Only she and Zhou Xuanji were in the palace. The 18 goddesses were waiting outside. So, you have to grasp it well and reduce the tragedy of fate in this world, Zhou Xuanji said with a smile. Zhou Xuanji said with a smile. Then, he changed his tone and said meaningfully, "Marriage can only be arranged and cannot be forced, understand? Some marriages may be good for you, but they are torturous for the people involved." Jiang Shui nodded and rolled her eyes at him, saying, "Don't worry, I know all this. Love can't be forced." After that, Jiang Shui began to travel around the Kunlun origin court with the 18 goddesses. With their cultivation, few people in the Origin Court could hurt them. Moreover, Zhou Xuanji was at the highest point and could see every corner of the Kunlun Origin Court. If they were in danger, he could immediately take action. No matter how far they were, he could reach them in an instant. After the birth of Shitian Goddess, Zhou Xuanji began to cultivate alone. As for Xian Xianghua, she was busy developing the Emperor Sword Divine range. Sovereign Hongshan took Zhou Shaoxian to the Hongshan Plain to cultivate. Everything was so harmonious. In the blink of an eye, another few hundred years passed. Zhou Xuanji's understanding of the rules of the mortal world became deeper and deeper, but he found that it was too difficult for his cultivation to improve greatly. He summoned Little Supreme Being and told him about his confusion. I didn't expect you to be dissatisfied so quickly. You're just like an animal. Little Sovereign sighed with emotion. In the past, after he became a sovereign, he had wasted a lot of his cultivation time. Zhou Xuanji looked straight at him, which made him feel helpless. If that's the case, you'll have no choice but to go out and search for dynasty realms. Only by devouring them will you be able to break through. However, the majority of dynasty realms have grand sovereigns overseeing them. I'm afraid you'll have to get past them first. Little Sovereign teased. Zhou Xuanji hadn't really fought against a great sovereign yet. When facing Su Aoxue and the Qilin Enchantress, they didn't fight at all. Once he left the Kunlun Origin Court, he would no longer be able to use the power of the Kunlun Origin Court. Zhou Xuanji asked curiously, after defeating a great sovereign, how do I absorb a court realm? The reason why he was able to become a supreme being was because he had obtained the recognition of a supreme being's power. The other court realms definitely wouldn't do. He could only conquer them by force. I will teach you when the time comes. It's useless to tell you now. Different court realms have different absorption methods. You haven't gone to the endless universe. It's hard to explain it to you, Little Sovereign said, waving his hand. Little Sovereign waved his hand. Hearing this, Zhou Xuanji didn't insist. He sighed and said, the Qilin 9 absolutes haven't made a comeback yet. It's not good for me to leave directly. Little Sovereign already knew about the Qilin 9 absolutes. He furrowed his brow and said, they are indeed very troublesome. Back then, I had to take a detour when I saw them. But because of you alone, it's impossible to attract all the Qilin 9 absolutes. They are all very busy. Mentioning the Qilin 9 absolutes gave him a headache. Back then, he even scolded Zhou Xuanji, thinking that this kid was too impulsive. Zhou Xuanji asked, how many of the Qilin 9 absolutes can I kill with the power of the Kunlun Origin Court? Only by killing them can I eliminate future troubles. Kill a few people? You must be dreaming. You can't kill any one of them. I know about the Qilin demon from last time. That girl is ruthless. She might not be your match, but if you fight to the death, she will be seriously injured and you will die, Little Sovereign said in a bad mood. He felt that it was necessary to give Zhou Xuanji a blow to prevent this kid from becoming arrogant. Zhou Xuanji helplessly said, so, there is no solution to this situation. I can only wait? Little Sovereign smiled and said, you can send your avatars out to explore and find the whereabouts of the other court realms. It will be convenient for you to act in the future. Zhou Xuanji felt that it was reasonable. His eyes focused as an outer soul avatar directly separated from his eyes and landed in front of him. This outer soul avatar looked exactly the same as him. Even its aura was the same. After thinking for a moment, he divided another 9 outer soul avatars. With a wave of his right hand, he directly sent the 10 outer soul avatars out of the Kunlun Origin Court. TSK. Your avatars are very accomplished. It's hard to tell the real from the fake, Little Sovereign said in amazement. He suddenly couldn't see through Zhou Xuanji. It seemed that while he was asleep, this kid had been growing rapidly. Zhou Xuanji just smiled and didn't answer. He then stored the Lesser Supreme Sword in the Supreme Storage and continued to cultivate. In a purple cloud cosmic domain, a huge ship that looked like a flood dragon was sailing. The dragon head was ferocious and as huge as a mountain. There were 2 tall buildings on the ship, both of which were tens of thousands of feet high. Countless creatures were standing on the corridors of each floor. On the deck, the Chilan demon was standing behind a man in a black robe. This man in a black robe was 10 feet tall. He had 4 curved and sharp horns on his head. His long blood-red hair gave him a wild and domineering look. He was wearing a blood-red heavy armor. He looked as if he had climbed out of a blood pool. The Sword Emperor of the Kunlun Origin Court? Interesting. But are you sure your mission target is still in the Kunlun Origin Court? The corner of the man in a black robe's mouth rose. He was smiling arrogantly. Hearing this, the Chilan demon lowered her head and replied, "No, his fate has changed." But the Sword Emperor contradicted our Chilan 9 absolutes. Are we going to let it go? She gnashed her teeth at the thought of Zhou Xuanji's insolence. The man in a black robe turned around and raised her chin. He then said with a cold smile, "Mayor, Chilan 9 is not afraid of anyone, but there is no need to cause unnecessary trouble. Our current goal is to hurry up and collect opportunity stones, understand? As for the Sword Emperor, when this mission is over, I will personally destroy him. I will also destroy the Kunlun Origin Court along the way. There are always some guys who overestimate themselves in that place." Hearing this, the Chilan demon's eyes lit up. She nodded excitedly. Chapter 891. Big Brother, how far has the main mission evolved? The Chilan demon hugged the black-robed man's arm and asked coquettishly. The black-robed man turned around and looked ahead with a deep look in his eyes. "One more person," he said casually. "Who?" the Chilan demon asked in astonishment. She thought that they were only lacking serendipity stones. "Speaking of which, that person is related to Kunlun Origin Court. You will know in the future that he is a formidable opponent of mine," the black-robed man said softly. The corner of his lips curled into a cruel smile. The Chilan demon fell into deep thought. What kind of existence could become a formidable opponent of her big brother? On the other side, in a dusky universe, Zhou Xuanji's avatar traveled at high speed. He looked around and did not want to miss any clues around him. "Strange, there's the aura of living beings here," Zhou Xuanji mumbled. Now that he was in his original consciousness, he could still split his divine will. It was not difficult to multitask to become a great sovereign. It had been 8 years since the avatar left. Only this avatar could sense the aura of living beings. In the boundless universe, the aura of living beings was rare. Take the Kunlun Origin Court, for example. Other than the sovereigns, how many people could leave the Origin Court freely? After wandering for an hour, Zhou Xuanji finally sensed the aura of living beings. He flew toward the direction of the aura and finally stopped before a fist-sized rock. The rock was silver in color and uneven. There were many similar rocks around, but only this one caught Zhou Xuanji's attention. He grabbed the rock and probed it with his divine sense. The next second, he saw a world. Court realm. This court realm was extremely huge, like a pyramid. The court realm was at the top, and below it were countless layers of universes. The aura of living beings gathered together as though they were going to overturn the top of the world. Zhou Xuanji was delighted. He finally found a court realm. Humph! A cold snort resounded beside his ear, which almost shattered his soul. Far away in the Kunlun Origin Court, Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes. There was a silhouette in his eyes. This person was wearing a white robe with blue characters on it. He was handsome and had a jade ruler in his hand. It was the sovereign of the Fong court realm. Interesting. This guy seems to have just stepped into the great sovereign realm. Zhou Xuanji mumbled to himself. Zhou Xuanji muttered to himself. The other party did not have enough experience and only discovered him after he found the court realm stone, which meant that his cultivation was inferior to his. However, if he rushed over, it would take at least a year. If the 9 absolutes of the Chilan rushed over at this time, it would be a disaster. He sighed, feeling very unhappy. Damn the 9 absolutes of Kailan. One day, I will destroy all of you. Zhou Xuanji thought to himself hatefully before closing his eyes again. However, just as he closed his eyes, he suddenly sensed something and opened them again. Why is he here? Zhou Xuanji mumbled to himself with a strange expression. A figure appeared at the edge of the supreme plane. This person was Reverend Daojing, the heavenly saint who had once thought highly of him. At that time, Sage Daojing had left the heavenly law universe in order to search for the Kunlun origin court. From then on, the Wanshin Great Thousand faced a calamity. His actions were very similar to Sage Wu Zhou's. Zhou Xuanji had some resentment towards Sage Daojing, but he had let it go now. He was very curious as to how Sage Daojing had come to the sovereign plane. Meanwhile, Sage Daojing held a piece of silver jade in his hand. Looking at the majestic celestial mist around him, a look of amazement appeared on his face. What is this place? Could it be the legendary Kunlun origin court? Sage Daojing mumbled. He was shocked by the spiritual qi here. He was overjoyed. If he cultivated in seclusion here, his cultivation would surely increase tremendously. After wandering for thousands of years, he had finally found it. Sage Daojing let out a long sigh and regained his composure. He was a heavenly saint. He should not be surprised by anything. He scanned his surroundings and flew forward. At this moment, two beautiful figures appeared in front of him. They were Mortal Sovereign and Zhou Shaoxian. Sovereign, do you think Father will be surprised by my cultivation? Zhou Shaoxian asked excitedly. She hugged Mortal Sovereign's arm, looking very intimate. Mortal Sovereign wanted to pull his arm back, but was afraid of hurting her. He said helplessly, "Do you think your father doesn't know?" Zhou Shaoxian heard him and felt that it made sense. After all, her father was already the most powerful person in the Kunlun origin court. He knew everything and knew everything. Mortal Sovereign suddenly turned his head and looked at Sage Daojing in the distance. He said meaningfully, "Why is he here?" Zhou Shaoxian also turned her head, and her eyes widened. Sage Daojing. She still remembered Sage Daojing. Back in the Wanshin Great Thousand, Sage Daojing was her father's backer. Why was he here? Sage Daojing was very nervous, but when he saw Zhou Shaoxian, he could not help but frown. This woman looked very familiar. He could not be blamed for not recognizing Zhou Shaoxian. Zhou Shaoxian had been reborn, and her cultivation far surpassed his. Her temperament made her even more beautiful. How could he remember her at first glance? Sage Daojing, why are you here? Did my father summon you? Zhou Shaoxian asked curiously. With a wave of her right hand, Sage Daojing appeared in front of them. Sage Daojing was shocked. In front of this woman, he could not resist at all, especially Mortal Sovereign's gaze. It made his hair stand on end, and he did not dare to look at her. He braced himself and asked, "Your father is—" He was shocked. Why did she know his name? He carefully looked at Zhou Shaoxian, and his eyes suddenly widened. She is impossible. How could she be here? Sage Daojing's body began to tremble. He could not believe his eyes. Hand over the stone in your hand, Mortal Sovereign said softly. As he spoke, the stone in Reverend Daojing's hand flew into his hand. You. Sage Daojing was furious and panicked. Facing Mortal Sovereign, he did not dare to act rashly. Zhou Shaoxian blinked and said, "You even forgot my father? Then how did you come here?" This is the supreme plane, the cultivation plane of the Lord of Kunlun Origin Court. No one is allowed to enter. Lord of Kunlun Origin Court. Sage Daojing was so frightened that his body trembled. No wonder the spiritual qi here was so dense. He asked cautiously, "Then why are you here? Could it be that Zhou Xuanji is favored by the Lord of Kunlun Origin Court?" He had a deep impression of Zhou Xuanji. That brat's talent was outstanding, and he was courageous and had many opportunities. He might have been favored by the Lord of Kunlun Origin Court. "My father is the Lord of Kunlun Origin Court," Zhou Shaoxian giggled. Zhou Shaoxian giggled. Seeing Sage Daojing trembling in fear, she was very excited. She felt great when she put herself in Zhou Xuanji's shoes. If she was the main character, it would be even better. Sage Daojing felt like he was struck by lightning. He was stunned on the spot, and his mouth opened wide. Mortal Sovereign was playing with the stone with a slight frown. She said in a low voice, "This stone." Chapter 892. Sovereign, what's wrong with this stone? Zhou Shaoxian looked at Sovereign Mortal World and asked curiously. Her eyes fell on the stone. It looked simple and ordinary. There was nothing special about it. Sovereign Mortal World said softly, "I can't see through it. Maybe you have to let your father see it. But obviously, this stone came from outside the court because I have never seen such a stone." She glanced at Sage Dao Jing and asked expressionlessly, "Where did you get this stone? It's impossible for you to break in with your strength." Sage Dao Jing was extremely nervous. He didn't know how to answer. This was his treasure. How could it be robbed by others? If it weren't for this stone, he would have died long ago. But now, facing Sovereign Mortal World, he didn't dare to act rashly. "Come here." Zhou Xuanji's voice suddenly came, and the three of them were teleported to the Supreme Palace. Sage Daojing looked up and saw Zhou Xuanji sitting on the golden throne. He fell into shock. It's really Zhou Xuanji. Could it be that he was the Lord of Kunlun Origin Court in his previous life? Was that why he was so monstrous? Sage Daojing's mind was in a mess. He didn't speak. Zhou Xuanji was so mighty. He had never seen such a mighty existence. It was as if he was the supreme ruler, controlling everything and looking down on the world. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, "Sage, long time no see. You still haven't found the Kunlun Origin Court?" His gaze saw through Venerable Daojing and saw Venerable Daojing's fate. This guy had entered the void boundary before. He was about to enter the Kunlun Origin Court when he encountered a battle between two nine vast heaven sovereigns and was sucked into the turbulence of time and space. In a daze, Sage Daojing obtained this stone by chance. He relied on this stone to cross the universe. After going through many hardships, he finally mistakenly entered the sovereign plane. This stone didn't come from the Kunlun Origin Court. Zhou Xuanji couldn't use the exterminating divine eyes to see its origin. Sage Daojing asked bitterly, "I didn't expect you to be the Lord of Kunlun Origin Court. Can you tell me where the Kunlun Origin Court is? Does it really exist?" He abandoned everything to search for the Kunlun Origin Court, but at this moment, he was confused. He even felt that reality was a nightmare. Back then, Zhou Xuanji was under him. If he had stayed, wouldn't he have followed Zhou Xuanji here? When he thought of this, he felt suffocated and aggrieved. The Kunlun Origin Court is far more prosperous than you think. I can arrange for you to enter the Kunlun Origin Court, but this stone belongs to me. How about it? Zhou Xuanji looked at Sage Daojing and said with a light smile. He sighed in his heart. Seeing an old friend again, it was true that things were still the same, but the people had changed. Looking back, most of the people who had left a deep impression on him were no longer around. What would those people think if they knew of his achievements? Sage Daojing hesitated. He felt quite tired and wanted to calm down, but he was reluctant to part with this stone. If not for this stone, he would have died a long time ago. Zhou Xuanji said meaningfully, "There are still people you know in the Emperor's Sword Divine range. You won't be lonely there. This stone might not be an opportunity for you. It might be a disaster. This time, it brought you to me. If it brings you to another sovereign, what will happen to you?" Sage Daojing was covered in cold sweat as he listened. Although he didn't know what kind of status a supreme being had, it was definitely an existence he couldn't afford to offend. The opportunity is in front of you. If you don't grasp it, then you are really stupid. Mortal Sovereign snorted coldly. Autar Crimson Dust snorted coldly, causing Reverend Daojing to feel even more conflicted. Zhou Xuanji sighed softly and said, "I am indebted to you, so I will treat you well. This stone is really not something you should have. It might bring a great disaster. Anything that came from outside the Kunlun Origin Court could bring danger." Sage Daojing sighed and said, "Okay, I will listen to you." Zhou Xuanji smiled and focused his eyes. Sage Daojing disappeared into thin air and was sent to the Emperor's Sword Divine range. He was sent directly to Xian Doya and Daoya Old Man so that they could settle down Sage Daojing. "Father, look at my cultivation. How is it? I have improved a lot, right? Zhou Xiaoxian finally found the opportunity. She came up to Zhou Xuanji and said with a proud smile. She had already stepped into the Origin Fusion Divine Lord First Enlightenment stage. It could be said that she had improved by leaps and bounds. Zhou Xuanji didn't pay attention to her before. Now, he was very curious about how Mortal Sovereign taught her. Guess what is Tanhua's cultivation now? Zhou Xuanji teased. Hearing this, Zhou Xiaoshuan's face immediately fell. She snorted coldly, stomped her feet, and walked to the palace with her back facing Zhou Xuanji. Mortal Sovereign then said, I will return her to you. Next, I want to leave the Kunlun Origin Court alone and explore the outside world. Zhou Xuanji frowned. He knew how dangerous the endless universe was. He had already had sex with Mortal Sovereign before. Naturally, he regarded her as his woman. How could he let her be in danger? Don't worry, Starpincher left me an artifact. It will take me to the plane where she is. I can also help you take a look at Tanhua's situation, Mortal Sovereign said seriously. Autar Crimson Dust said seriously. She had considered this matter carefully. Since a long time ago, her cultivation could no longer grow. Only by going to the endless universe could she have the hope of becoming stronger. She also wanted to become a great sovereign. Zhou Xuanji's frown deepened. Because of the Qilin 9 absolutes, he couldn't leave directly. But he was really worried about letting Mortal Sovereign leave alone. He said in a deep voice, wait a little longer. I will also go out later. I can give you a ride. Mortal Sovereign hesitated for a moment before nodding. Next, Zhou Xuanji chatted with them for a while before letting them go. He picked up Sage Douging Stone and began studying it. No matter how his divine will penetrated the stone, he couldn't find anything. It looked ordinary, but there was a trace of space-time fluctuation inside. Although it was weak, it was real. What is it? Why do I feel like I've seen it before? Zhou Xuanji mumbled to himself with a puzzled look on his face. He injected his supreme divine power into it. Boom! A wave of violent impact suddenly erupted, shaking the supreme palace until it trembled, and his robes fluttered nonstop. He fixed his eyes on it and saw strange words of light flying out from the stone, coiling around the stone and forming a halo. Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes. Monstrous waves were set off in his heart. These words of light seemed small, but they contained terrifying power. They were even stronger than his supreme divine power. What the hell is this? He quickly took out the lesser supreme sword and summoned Little Sovereign. Little Sovereign looked down in a daze. His eyes immediately widened in shock. Opportunity Stone. How come you have this? He cried out in shock. He was dumbfounded. Zhou Xuanji asked, what's the origin of this stone? Opportunity Stone? Could it be related to the opportunity of the three sovereigns? Little Sovereign adjusted his emotions. His expression was complicated as he whispered, this is a treasure from the endless universe. It can increase the supreme divine power and suppress space-time. Chapter 893. Increase the supreme divine power? Zhou Xuanji raised his brow. He was immediately interested in the Serendipity Stone. Little Sovereign continued. Opportunity Stones are rare in the endless universe. They are treasures fought over by Grand Supremes. They are even harder to find in the court realm. If you have 10 Opportunity Stones, you can directly break through to the second court Grand Supremes. The more Zhou Xuanji heard, the more delighted he became. He had learned of another path to become more powerful. He looked up at Little Sovereign with a bit of bitterness in his eyes and asked, why didn't you say so earlier? Didn't you say that I can only become stronger by absorbing the realms of the court? Little Sovereign rolled his eyes at him and snappily said, Opportunity Stone, Opportunity Stone. Don't you understand the word opportunity? How difficult is it? I only managed to obtain one Opportunity Stone in my entire life, and in order to save my life, I had no choice but to give it up. Speaking of this matter, his face was full of unwillingness. Oh, who could force you to hand over the treasure in your hands? Zhou Xuanji asked curiously. He had always been interested in Little Sovereign's past, especially the cause of Little Sovereign's death. Little Sovereign curled his lips and said, "Who else could it be? The 9 absolutes of the Qilin. Those guys wantonly plundered the Opportunity Stones. It is precisely because of their existence that the Opportunity Stones became a disaster. Hurry up and absorb it in case the 9 absolutes Qilin divinates this chance stone. After all, you've already been targeted by them. If you attract the chance stone, it won't be good." Zhou Xuanji raised his eyebrows. He did not expect the Qilin 9 absolutes to be so domineering. Why does it sound like he's the overlord of the endless universe? Without hesitation, he began to refine the Opportunity Stone. Opportunity Stones contain massive amounts of energy. Zhou Xuanji could not refine them directly and needed some time. In the dark void, there was a mountain range suspended in the air. It was like a coiled dragon, and its aura was violent and imposing. Within the mountain range, there were verdant hills, clear waters, and green trees everywhere. It was like the beautiful scenery of a fairyland. Zhou Tianhua was sitting on a branch with his legs crossed and a sword laid flat on his lap. He closed his eyes and quietly touched the scabbard. His black hair fluttered in the breeze, and his aura gradually increased. Shen Yinqing appeared in midair and looked down at him. She nodded with satisfaction and murmured, "This kid is really a genius. He is worthy of being his son." Ever since she accepted Zhou Tianhua as her disciple, she had become more and more satisfied with him. "Pickstar, come here." An old voice floated into her ears, and she disappeared into thin air. She came to a Taoist temple and knelt on the ground, worshipping the old man who was meditating in front of her. "Master, what are your orders?" Shen Yinqing asked respectfully. She was arrogant and insufferably arrogant outside, but in the face of her master, she was a good girl. The elder wore a deep blue Taoist robe. He had a head of white hair, and there was a jade hairpin in his hair. His aura was faintly discernible. When he opened his eyes, the light within the Taoist temple became bright. "Niaoxing, you should go and invite his father." His expression was calm and unfathomable. Shen Yinqing asked doubtfully, "Why did he come?" "He is the master of the Kunlun Origin Court. If he leaves, I'm afraid the Kunlun Origin Court will be in trouble." The elder replied, "The 9 absolutes of the Qilin no longer have the time to deal with him." Hearing this, Shen Yinqing was overjoyed. She had complete trust in her master. She asked curiously, "What are the 9 absolutes of the Qilin busy with?" "They have been collecting Opportunity Stones since a long time ago. Even I can't guess their purpose. However, they have already gathered and rushed to the Myriad Domain Devil Lair. I reckon that something big is going to happen," the old man said leisurely. His expression was still calm. Shen Yinqing frowned and asked, "Aren't we going to stop them? They're not good people. If they dominate the endless universe, all the courts and planes will suffer." The old man shook his head and said, "Don't worry. There are many strong cultivators in the endless universe. The 9 absolutes of the Qilin are not invincible. They also have strong enemies." When Shen Yinqing heard this, she became interested in the strong enemies of the 9 absolutes of the Qilin. Just as she wanted to continue to ask, the old man continued, "Go and pick up Zhou Xuanji. I'm very interested in him." Shen Yinqing immediately saluted and turned to leave. The door of the Taoist temple closed, and a light figure emerged from behind the old man. His true face couldn't be seen clearly. "Jiang Feili, how long are you going to stay here?" the light figure asked. His voice sounded like he was gnashing his teeth. The old man called Jiang Feili replied, "The time is not right. The endless universe seems calm now, but in fact, undercurrents are surging. Whoever comes out first will end up the worst." The light figure no longer answered and drilled back into his body. Sovereign Plain, boom, boom, boom. The giant mountain where the Supreme Palace was located kept shaking. The sound of air turbulence could be heard one after another. Inside the palace, Zhou Xuanji was meditating in the air. His body was bursting with strands of purple light, illuminating the entire palace. In his palms, the Opportunity Stone was less than half of its original size. Endless energy poured into Zhou Xuanji's body, and turned into sovereign divine power. Half a piece of opportunity stone was enough to increase his cultivation by several times. He slowly opened his eyes and looked at the opportunity stone in his hand. A hint of reluctance flashed in his eyes. Just half of it. How good would it be if I had more opportunity stones? At this moment, his desire to go out became even stronger. He not only wanted to devour the courts, but also to find opportunity stones. He wanted to become the strongest existence in the endless universe. At this moment, footsteps came from the front. He looked up and saw that was Shun Yinxing. Shun Yinxing's cultivation was higher than his. The space barrier of the sovereign plane was nothing to her. As for the sage manifestation array, Zhou Xuanji had already tacitly recognized her aura to avoid accidentally hurting her. Who told her to always appear and disappear unpredictably? Why are you back? Zhou Xuanji asked as he quickly stored the opportunity stone into the supreme storage. Shen Yinxing replied casually, I missed you. What kind of stone were you holding just now? It has a lot of energy. Zhou Xuanji smiled. Only a ghost would believe it. How's the epiphyllum? He continued to ask. After so many years, Zhou Xuanji's cultivation should have advanced by leaps and bounds. Shen Yinxing shrugged and replied, just make do with it. It's only Origin Fusion Divine, Lord Seven Enlightened. Only Zhou Xuanji's face twitched slightly. Sure enough, the opportunity outside the Kunlun Origin Court is greater. This kid has become stronger. This time, I came back because I want to take you to see my revered master. My revered master said that the Qilin 9 Absolutes have all gone to the Myriad Domain Devil Lair. They won't trouble you for the time being, Shen Yinxing said as she stepped in the air towards Zhou Xuanji. She looked at Zhou Xuanji and sighed in her heart. His son is monstrous, and his father is even more monstrous. Staying in the Kunlun Origin Court, this guy can also become stronger quickly. It's too unreasonable. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow when he heard this. He had finally waited for this opportunity. Why does your revered master want to see me? Zhou Xuanji asked in doubt. He was just a nobody in the endless universe. How could he arouse the curiosity of such a powerful cultivator? Could it be because of his son? Shen Yinxing shook her head and said, I don't know. Don't worry. With me here, he won't harm you. Maybe it's an opportunity. Chapter 894. Zhou Xuanji and Shen Yinxing chatted for a while. In the end, he decided to leave the Kunlun Origin Court with her. But before that, he had to give him some instructions. He went to look for Jiang Shui, while Shen Yinxing went to look for Supreme Hongqun. Sovereign Hongqun wanted to leave long ago. Naturally, she couldn't miss this opportunity. Zhou Xuanji didn't want to hide it from her either. Jiang Shui knew that he was going to leave. Although she was worried, she did not stop him. She could tell that he wanted to go out and search for opportunities. After the two of them spent a few days together, Zhou Xuanji met with the 12 Law ancestors. When the ancestors learned that he was about to leave, they were all shocked. However, knowing that Zhou Xuanji was going to meet an ancient senior from outside the court, they became excited again. Finally, they promised to protect the Kunlun Origin Court, and only then did Zhou Xuanji feel at ease and leave. Zhou Xuanji, Shen Yinxing, and Mortal Sovereign came to the Dark Domain together. Shen Yinxing used her supreme divine power to lead the two of them to fly at full speed. My master's name is Jiang Feili. He's extremely famous in the endless universe and has lived longer than your little sovereign. When you see him, you can't be rude. Shen Yinxing turned around and reminded. She directly ignored Supreme Hongqun. It seemed that the estrangement between the two sisters had not been completely resolved. Compared to Qilin 9 Absolutes, is he stronger? Zhou Xuanji asked. Now, the Qilin 9 Absolutes had already become his standard to measure the boundless universe. After all, he had already viewed the 9 Absolutes of Qilin as his #1 enemy. Shen Yinxing nodded and smiled proudly. I'm not bragging. At least the leader of the 9 killers of the Qilin is on par with my master. Zhou Xuanji and Mortal Sovereign were both shocked to hear this. No wonder Shen Yinxing was so powerful. It turned out that her master had such a great background. Zhou Xuanji became interested in Jiang Feili. Why was this ancient almighty looking for him? He continued to ask, "Can you ask your master to accept your sister as a disciple?" Shen Yinxing snorted and said, "Of course, I left her a token before. It's not because of our previous relationship. I just feel that she is talented, and she is also a mortal god." Zhou Xuanji smiled, but did not point it out. Autar Crimson Dust revealed a smile as well. It had been a long time since she had smiled so sincerely. When Shen Yinxing saw them laughing, she couldn't help but frown impatiently. With two great supremes traveling together, no one dared to find trouble with them, so they were unobstructed. Zhou Xuanji passed by the court realm he had discovered, but he did not stop. Absorbing a court realm required time, and he did not have the time for now. 3 years later, Zhou Xuanji and Mortal Sovereign came to a mountain range under the lead of Shen Yinxing. From afar, they could feel Zhou Tanhua's aura. The same was true for Zhou Tanhua. He quickly arrived in front of the trio. "Father, Supreme Crimson Dust." Zhou Tanhua excitedly saluted. He still maintained the posture of a teenager. Compared to Zhou Xuanji's impression of him, he was much calmer. Shen Yinxing curled her lips and took the lead. "What about me?" Zhou Tanhua reacted and said, "Greetings, master." However, his gaze was fixed on Zhou Xuanji, and his eyes were filled with delight. He knew that Shen Yinxing had gone to find Zhou Xuanji, but he didn't expect her to come back so soon. Zhou Xuanji sized him up and smiled satisfactorily. "Not bad. Looks like you didn't slack off," Zhou Xuanji said with a gratified smile. There was nothing wrong with talent. Hard work was always the most important factor in becoming strong. Zhou Tanhua touched his nose and smiled, neither arrogant nor impatient. "Let's go, we'll go see my master first. Tanhua, take your Sanyang to rest," Shen Yinxing said, waving her hand before leaving with Zhou Xuanji. Supreme Crimson Dust's cheeks were slightly red as she bit her lips. Looking at Shen Yinxing's back, her eyes were filled with bitterness. Zhou Tanhua was stunned. He looked at Supreme Crimson Dust with a strange look in his eyes. "Humph!" Supreme Crimson Dust let out a cold snort. Zhou Tanhua hurriedly lowered his head. On the other side, Shen Yinxing brought Zhou Xuanji into the Taoist temple. Zhou Xuanji also saw Jiang Feili. The first impression this person gave him was that he was unfathomable. He seemed calm, but was filled with evil qi. This kind of evil qi couldn't be identified with the naked eye. It was his intuition. "Revered master, he is here," Shen Yinxing said with a respectful tone. Shen Yinxing said in a respectful tone. Jiang Feili replied, "Okay, you can leave first." Hearing this, Shen Yinxing immediately saluted and retreated. Only Zhou Xuanji and Jiang Feili were left in the Taoist temple. The atmosphere had become silent. Zhou Xuanji bowed and said, "Greetings, senior." Jiang Feili opened his eyes. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. Zhou Xuanji couldn't help but squint. "Zhou Xuanji, the Kunlun Origin Court has never had a sovereign like you. Maybe one day, you will surpass Sovereign Heaven," Jiang Feili said meaningfully. Sovereign Heaven, the most powerful sovereign in the history of the Kunlun Origin Court. That was an ancient legend. Some people even believed that there was no Sovereign Heaven at all. He was just a fabrication made up by later generations. Zhou Xuanji asked, "Have you ever seen a Sovereign Heaven?" Jiang Feili nodded and then began talking about the past. Before he had attained the Tao, the Cardinal Heaven Realm had already dominated the boundless universe. The Cardinal Heaven Realm had played an indispensable role in the boundless universe's current prosperity. Sovereign Heaven opened up the paths of the universe with boundless divine power, divided the planes, and created the second court realm. After that, more and more great sovereigns imitated him, and more court realms appeared. It could be said that the cultivation method after the great sovereign of the court realm was created by Sovereign Heaven. Zhou Xuanji listened carefully. He didn't expect Sovereign Heaven to have such a status in the endless universe. Sovereign Heaven had disappeared for countless years, and no one knew if they were dead or alive. The Qilin 9 absolutes that you offended are fanatical believers of sovereign heaven. They want to use the sovereign serendipity to create a sovereign heaven and make it theirs, Zhang Feili said faintly. Zhou Xuanji frowned and asked in confusion, "Can a sovereign heaven be created? Could it be that a sovereign heaven had already fallen and only a remnant soul was left? If the Qilin 9 absolutes succeeded, the Qilin 9 absolutes might be able to dominate the endless universe with the help of a sovereign heaven." As an enemy of the Qilin 9 absolutes, Zhou Xuanji did not want to see such a scene. A sovereign serendipity is omnipotent. They might really succeed. They have collected a large number of serendipity stones and are heading toward the 10,000 domain devil heir. I hope you can stop them, Zhang Feili said straightforwardly. Having heard this, Zhou Xuanji frowned again. Stop the Qilin 9 absolutes with his strength? Wasn't this pushing him into a pit? Zhou Xuanji looked at Zhang Feili warily. Zhang Feili laughed and said, "Don't worry, I won't let you die for nothing. When the time comes, I will act as well. The reason why I let you participate is because you are the current sovereign of the Kunlun Origin Court. If you encounter a sovereign heaven's will, you can attract it. Before that, I will help you become more powerful. You have already absorbed the serendipity stones. Do you still want more?" Speaking to there, Zhang Feili gave a faint smile. It was as if he had completely seen through Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji was immediately moved. He came out to become more powerful. If he could get rid of the Qilin 9 absolutes, he would naturally do it. This was killing two birds with one stone. It was just that the process would be extremely dangerous. Chapter 895. After hesitating for a while, Zhou Xuanji agreed. Zhang Feili was very happy about this. As expected of the Kunlun Origin Court Supremes. Courageous and daring. Zhang Feili laughed loudly. At the same time, he waved his right sleeve, and 15 serendipity stones of different sizes flew before Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji scanned them with his divine will and confirmed that they were really serendipity stones. He was delighted and stored them in the supreme storage. He looked up and asked, "When do we act?" Zhang Feili shook his head and said, "It's not time yet. Go and cultivate first. I'll remind you when the time comes." Zhou Xuanji nodded and saluted before turning to leave. After he left, a figure flew out from behind Zhang Feili. This child is indeed extraordinary. He is very similar to Wu Zhou from back then. However, Wu Zhou betrayed you. Aren't you afraid of repeating his mistakes? The light figure asked coldly. Zhang Feili's expression was calm as he said, "He is not Wu Zhou. I believe in my disciple's insight. He is more principled and decisive than Wu Zhou." In his words, Supreme Wu Zhou wasn't even worth mentioning. "I hope so. Don't waste your efforts." The figure sighed. Saying so, he went back into Zhang Feili's body. Outside the Taoist temple, Zhou Xuanji played with the opportunity stone in his hand as he flew into the distance. Shen Yinxing suddenly stood in front of him and said with a smile, "How is it? Are you satisfied? My master actually gave you the opportunity stone. When I want to find you, weren't you refining the opportunity stone? You even pretended not to let me know." Zhou Xuanji faked a cough. He did not expect this girl to know about serendipity stones. He pretended to be calm and asked, "Is there a suitable place for me to go into seclusion?" Shen Yinxing nodded and turned to lead the way. The two quickly flew to the other side of the mountain. They entered a cave, and after passing through the dark tunnel, they came to a place with verdant hills and limpid water. Blue sky, white clouds, high mountains, flowing water. It was as beautiful as a painting. "This is my cave. You can cultivate here in the future." Shen Yinxing pointed to the front and smiled, looking like she was presenting a treasure. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "Thank you, I'm going to cultivate now. In other words, you can leave now. I'll accompany you," Shen Yinxing said with a smile. Her charming smile gave Zhou Xuanji a bad feeling. Zhou Xuanji frowned and instinctively wanted to reject. But this was Shen Yinxing's territory. How could he refuse? Forget it. Zhou Xuanji shook his head. He turned around and flew toward a tall mountain in the distance and landed on its peak. He sat down cross-legged and took out the opportunity stone that he had yet to refine. Seeing him hurriedly enter the cultivation state, Shun Yinxing smiled slyly. 10 years later, Zhou Xuanji began to refine the second opportunity stone. The majestic energy in the opportunity stone fascinated him. He did not allow himself to rest. Instead, he enjoyed this feeling. However, Shun Yinxing came to disturb him. Don't keep absorbing the opportunity stones, or else your foundation won't be stable. I found another Grand Supreme. Let's go hunt. Shun Yinxing grabbed Zhou Xuanji and said excitedly, "A Grand Sovereign? Hunting?" Zhou Xuanji was speechless. Can't you show some respect to great sovereigns? On second thought, he realized that he couldn't blindly increase his cultivation. He needed to fight to digest it. It just so happened that he hadn't fought against a Grand Supreme before. Just like that, Zhou Xuanji left with Shun Yinxing. Not only them, but Mortal Sovereign and Zhou Tanhua also followed. Shun Yinxing said that she wanted to broaden their horizons. Neither of them refused. On the contrary, they were very excited. Along the way, Zhou Tanhua kept asking questions. He couldn't maintain his usual calm. Most of the time, it was Shun Yinxing who answered him. But in the end, Shun Yinxing became impatient and no longer paid attention to him. How many great sovereigns are there in the endless universe? Mortal Sovereign asked curiously. When she was in the Kunlun Origin Court, she was one of the most powerful cultivators. But when she came to the endless universe, she felt very small. Shun Yinxing shook her head and said, "It's very difficult for great sovereigns to die unless they encounter a stronger opponent. Since ancient times, how much time has passed? Let alone great sovereigns, there are countless court realms. Some stand majestically in the universe, and some are hidden in the dust." The endless universe was the greatest achievement left behind by the sages. It represented boundlessness, infinite hope, and possibilities. Perhaps the first great sovereigns had reached the top because they felt lonely. That was why they had such a magnificent feat. That was why the later great sovereigns had always had a goal to strive for. Zhou Xuanji was thinking about sovereign heaven. Just how strong was that ancestor of the Kunlun Origin Court? To be able to make the 9 absolutes Qilin a believer, it was probably not something that the 9 Halls Grand Supremes could do. Of course, it was also possible that a Cardinal Heaven expert had been deified. Zhou Xuanji was more inclined to believe the former. They flew for about half a year. They arrived at a vast ocean. This ocean surged aimlessly in space-time, sweeping out for tens of millions of kilometers. The seawater was blue, and there were countless star-like lights in the sea. These lights were all great worlds, and the ocean that gathered together was the court realm. Zhou Xuanji and the others looked over from afar and were all stunned. "It's so beautiful. I can't bear to destroy it," Shun Yinxing said with a smile. A long silver chain appeared in her hand, and she threw it directly into the blue ocean. The long chain danced and quickly elongated. In the blink of an eye, it became incomparably huge. Boom! The silver chain struck the blue ocean with a domineering aura, and a blue light burst forth, blocking the silver chain. The blue ocean violently fluctuated, and the seawater surged to either side, as if a massive piece of cotton had been struck and deformed. The scene was very spectacular. An extremely powerful aura broke out, enveloping the space-time turbulence. Humph! A cold snort filled with anger resounded. Zhou Tanhua and Hongqian sovereigns' faces turned pale. They felt their blood and qi fluctuating. They felt very uncomfortable. Shun Yinxing immediately rushed over like a sharp arrow and plunged into the blue ocean. Zhou Xuanji did the same. The Life and Death Emperor Sword and Soul Kunlun Sword appeared in his hands out of thin air. He followed suit and plunged into the blue ocean. Countless great worlds entered his field of vision. In front of him, 2 silhouettes were colliding with each other. Their aura was terrifying, shaking the surrounding space-time. Shun Yinxing held the long silver chain as if she was holding a sharp whip, wantonly lashing at her opponent. The great sovereign was wearing black armor. His hair was disheveled, and he was holding two exaggeratedly huge blades in his hands. His face was hideous. He was crazily casting his divine abilities, but he couldn't suppress Shun Yinxing. Zhou Xuanji used the sword fusion technique. His figure moved and immediately appeared before the black-armored great sovereign. Clang! Clang! The blades and swords clashed. The black-armored great sovereign was caught off guard and was sent flying. This power, the black-armored great sovereign was both shocked and angry. The sovereign's divine energy in his body condensed into a substance, like strands of black smoke overflowing from his body. Shen Yinxing raised her brow as the corner of her mouth rose. She thought to herself, "It seems that he still had a lot of secrets. He recklessly increased his cultivation, and his power is still so strong." Zhou Xuanji didn't know what she was thinking. His mind was already focused on the battle. He wanted to truly feel the battle between great sovereigns. Chapter 896. Who the hell are you? Why did you attack my court realm? The black-armored great sovereign demanded angrily. However, his hands didn't stop waving the two sabers in a frenzy. Saber chi crisscrossed and tore the surrounding space apart. Many of them were destroyed, representing the annihilation of a great world. Zhou Xuanji noticed that the Feng court realm was very stable. Although it was not as stable as the Kunlun origin court, the vitality here was much more prosperous. It seemed that this court world was very well managed. "I'll leave him to you, and this Feng Ting realm belongs to me. How about it?" Zhou Xuanji asked as he fought. Shen Yinxing curled her lips and said, "All right." This fellow really didn't want to suffer any losses. The two of them joined forces to suppress the black-armored Grand Paragon again. Amidst the vast blue ocean, their auras rose steadily, stirring up the seawater and creating raging waves. The outside world. Zhou Tanhua was so excited that he asked curiously, "What do you think about the strength of that Grand Supreme Being? How much weaker is he compared to my father and master?" Autar Crimson Dust said in a low voice, "He shouldn't be much weaker than them. Otherwise, he wouldn't have such momentum." Even though she was far away, she could still feel the terrifying aura within the blue ocean. The divine power of a grand sovereign was indeed frighteningly strong. At the very least, Crimson Dust Sovereign didn't dare to rashly approach him. Although she was a sovereign of laws, she was still far from being a Grand Supreme. While they were cheering outside, Zhou Xuanji was already fully immersed in the battle. He activated his battle physique, and his supreme divine power rose to an unprecedented level. Silver light burst forth from the surface of his body, and it was as if a beam of light was crazily attacking the black-armored great sovereign. The two divine swords also displayed extraordinary strength, and they suppressed the black-armored great sovereign to the point where he couldn't resist at all. The sword light of the soul, Kunlun, sword kept flickering. Zhou Xuanji's soul origin had already been injected into the blade. It was destroying the black-armored great sovereign's soul in the battle, making him a little dazed. In a battle of this level, a single moment of absent-mindedness could lead to defeat, let alone prolonged absent-mindedness. Sword wounds appeared on black-armored great sovereign's body. His physical body was strong, so even if his neck was cut by a sword, it didn't break. Rumble. Just at this time, the blue sea suddenly became violent, and strands of purple light gathered from all directions and unstoppably poured into the black-armored great sovereign. The power of the court. Zhou Xuanji had used the power of the Kunlun origin court before, so he was very familiar with this scene. He immediately used the ultimate Chaos Dao, and boundless sword chi engulfed the black-armored great sovereign. He did not stop and continued to use the delusion sea of swords. Divine will transformed into swords, and the swords converged into an ocean, filling the blue ocean, fierce and domineering. Shen Yinxing stopped. She looked at Zhou Xuanji with eyes full of splendor. This guy. She was shocked by Zhou Xuanji's performance. These divine abilities all had their own profoundness, and he continuously unleashed them like a berserk wolf, giving off a majestic aura. If Zhou Xuanji had the same cultivation as her, she might have lost to him. At this moment, she suddenly understood why Jiang Feili wanted her to invite Zhou Xuanji personally. Sure enough, none of the peerless geniuses of the Kunlun Origin Court were simple. "I want you dead." The black-armored great sovereign roared furiously. With a wave of his arms, Zhou Xuanji and Shen Yinxing felt an unstoppable force coming at them, directly pushing them out of the blue ocean. After coming to the spatial turbulence, Zhou Xuanji's qi and blood were boiling, and his face was slightly pale. The same was true for Shen Yinxing. She then waved her right hand backward, sending Hong Chun, Sovereign, and Shen Yinxing behind her. Zhou Xuanji stared ahead. The blue ocean was surging violently as a giant shining with purple light slowly stood up from the stormy waves. He was holding two blades in his hands. It was the black-armored great sovereign from before. "Can you do it?" Zhou Xuanji asked in a deep voice. Wasn't Shen Yinxing very arrogant? Why was she driven out by the other party? Shen Yinxing curled her lips and said, "His own strength is nothing to be afraid of, but now that he has borrowed the power of the court realm, we can retreat. This court realm is stronger than I expected. Let's retreat first and come back next time." "Retreat?" Zhou Xuanji raised his brow, shook his head, and said with a smile, "Don't worry, let me test his strength again." After saying this, he rushed toward the black-armored great sovereign without hesitation. The black-armored great sovereign was in a rage. Seeing Zhou Xuanji rushing over, he immediately raised his two blades and slashed down with unparalleled momentum. Boom! The thousand-hand sword Buddha rose from Zhou Xuanji's body. Its 1,000 arms drew a circle as its palms clamped the two blades in succession. Zhou Xuanji followed up with a slash. The life and death Emperor Sword and the soul Kunlun Sword flew out of his hands, transforming into two giant dragons that roared and charged. The dragon's roar echoed in the space-time turbulence as the two dragons pierced the black-armored great sovereign's chest. Shen Yinxing was stunned. This guy can still hurt the other party? However, the black-armored great sovereign ignored the hole in his chest. His two blades crushed the 1,000-hand sword Buddha and slashed at Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji moved away from the space-time turbulence and came to the dark plane on the other side of the space-time turbulence. Just as he was about to go back, the two giant blades appeared again. This time, he had no time to dodge. Puff! He spurted out a mouthful of blood as his body broke through the plane wall and fell into the space-time turbulence. Shen Yinxing caught him and, at the same time, swept away Zhou Tianhua and Mortal Sovereign with a wave of her hand. Her speed was extremely fast, so fast that the black-armored great sovereign couldn't catch up with them. "Father, are you okay?" Zhou Tianhua asked nervously. Mortal Sovereign's eyes were also locked on Zhou Xuanji. He shook his head and said with a smile, "I'm fine. It's just a minor injury." He wiped the corner of his mouth and began to calm the boiling supreme divine power in his body. "Who told you to show off? Even I am afraid. You still dare to come?" Shen Yinxing said, curling her lips. Her tone was a little disappointed. This guy is too reckless. If it weren't for her, he would have died. Zhou Xuanji smiled but didn't answer. Even without Shen Yinxing's help, he was confident that he could escape. His physique was the absolute time realm. As long as he escaped into the absolute time realm, no matter how capable the other party was, they wouldn't be able to find him. Unless the other party also had the absolute time realm physique. Didn't you say that you prey on great sovereigns? Why are you in such a sorry state this time? Mortal Sovereign asked in doubt. She had heard Shen Yinxing bragging before. She didn't expect that the first time she witnessed Shen Yinxing's battle would be like this. Shen Yinxing curled her lips and said, "Those great sovereigns are either formed by rules or have left their own court realm. I rarely fight in the court realm." Her expression was ugly. This time, she was indeed a little embarrassed. "Then why are you fighting in the court realm this time?" Zhou Xuanji asked curiously. "Is it not as simple as hunting great sovereigns?" Shen Yinxing hesitated for a moment before she sighed and said, "It's for the ancient life lamp. I found out that this lamp fell into the Fong court realm. I want to get it. Don't tell anyone about this. Don't mention it in front of my revered master." Ancient life lamp. Zhou Xuanji and the other two were puzzled. What kind of artifact is that? The ancient life lamp is a supreme treasure that has been around for countless years. It can freeze time and space, absorb the souls of great sovereigns, and even reverse karma. It is definitely a supreme treasure for battle, Shen Yinqing said with a yearning look. Chapter 897. Ancient Life Lamp. Zhou Xuanji remembered this name. A treasure that could make Shen Yinqing so eager must be extraordinary. If he has this treasure, why didn't he use it? Mortal Sovereign asked in surprise. Zhou Xuanji only used the power of the court realm. If he really had the ancient life lamp, how could he be so embarrassed? He could have just used the ancient life lamp to defeat the enemy. Shen Yinqing curled her lips and said, "How can he conquer the ancient life lamp? So this treasure doesn't belong to him, but to me. It's destined." In the end, she smiled proudly as if she had already grasped the ancient life lamp. She was in high spirits. "Are we going back now?" Zhou Tianhua asked. He had a look of wanting to say more. After traveling for so long, they ended up going back with their tails between their legs. This was completely different from what he had imagined. Shen Yinqing rolled her eyes at him and said, "What? You want to go back?" Zhou Tianhua chuckled and shut his mouth. "Let's go back and continue to cultivate in seclusion." Someone didn't even gather enough intelligence and wanted to hunt. Was slap in the face. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said with a smile. These words pierced Shen Yinqing's heart like a knife. She glared at Zhou Xuanji with hatred, but didn't quibble. In today's battle, she had indeed underestimated the strength of the other court realm. In the sea of clouds, a tall tower was surrounded by white clouds. At the top of the tower, black-armored great sovereign sat on the ground. He took off his black armor. His whole body was covered in blood. His face became even more ferocious as he gnashed his teeth and said, "Just you wait. I will definitely take revenge." He rarely went out in his own court realm. Today, he had encountered such a disaster. Even if he had driven away the enemy, his anger still couldn't be appeased. He took a deep breath and turned to look at a black lamp behind him. Ancient life lamp. This lamp was 6 feet tall. Its base was slender and its body was transparent. It was burning with 7 colored flames. At the top was a flower leaf that looked like a scorched leaf. It looked a little eerie. Black-armored great sovereign put his palms together and said piously, "Ancient life lamp, please give me the power to kill those too. Give me the intuition to find them." He repeated the words over and over. After a while, all of a sudden, the ancient life lamp trembled violently, and wisps of charred smoke rose from it, coiling around the black-armored great sovereign like ghosts. He wasn't afraid. Instead, he was excited. Meanwhile, Zhou Xuanji and Shen Yinqing, who were traveling through the spatial turbulence, frowned at the same time. The two of them looked at each other and saw the fear in each other's eyes. In that instant, they felt inexplicably uneasy and even suffocated. "What happened?" Zhou Xuanji asked in a low voice with a sharp look in his eyes. He instinctively spread out his divine sense in all directions. Shen Yinqing shook her head and looked around vigilantly. Zhou Tianhua and Supremacy Hong Chen tensed up. They also looked around to guard against sneak attacks. The atmosphere became silent. After a long while, "Is there a problem?" Zhou Tianhua couldn't help but ask. He was an origin fusion divine lord, and his spirit sense was also very strong. How could he not sense the danger? Zhou Xuanji said, "It's nothing, let's continue." Shen Yinqing nodded, and the supreme divine power that wrapped around everyone suddenly accelerated, quickly taking them and disappearing at the end of time and space. A few months later, they returned to the mountain range. Zhou Xuanji returned to the blessed grotto heavens to cultivate in seclusion. Shen Yinqing went to see Jiang Feili. Zhou Tianhua and Supremacy Hong Chun cultivated separately. After meditating, Zhou Xuanji took out the opportunity stone and continued refining it. The previous battle had stimulated him. This time, he must break through to the great sovereign of his second court. On the other side, in the Taoist temple, Jiang Feili frowned as he stared at Shen Yinxing and said in a deep voice, "What did you provoke? Do you know what you are entangled by now? You have no way to escape." His tone was filled with anger, which made Shen Yinxing raise her brow. Could it be? Shen Yinxing thought of a possibility. A chill immediately welled up in her heart. She subconsciously murmured, "Ancient life lamp." As soon as she said this, Jiang Feili suddenly stood up. "What? You encountered the ancient life lamp? Why didn't you tell me first?" Jiang Feili angrily asked. He was so angry that his beard was trembling. The ancient life lamp is a supreme treasure, but it's also an evil treasure. Are you coveting its ability to distort time and space? Faced with Jiang Feili's questioning, Shen Yinxing's face was livid. She had underestimated the ancient life lamp. "This is troublesome. You really can't do anything right, but you're good at spoiling things." Jiang Feili pointed at Shen Yinxing and kept cursing. He had originally planned to stop the 9 absolutes Qilin, but now the ancient honorable life lamp had suddenly appeared. He began to pace back and forth with his hands behind his back. He gritted his teeth and said, "The threat of the ancient life lamp is no less than the 9 absolutes of the Qilin." Shen Yinxing frowned. She also knew this, so she wanted to get the honored life ancient lamp. They didn't expect to be cursed by the ancient sovereign fate lamp before they even saw it. Her heart sank to the bottom of the pit. Seeing her silence, Jiang Feili sighed. "Forget it. From now on, you can't leave this place." "Did you hear that?" Jiang Feili roared furiously. He was like a completely different person from before. Shen Yinxing was not aggrieved, nor was she afraid. She just nodded with a gloomy face. Then, she turned around and walked out of the temple. After the gate of the Taoist temple was closed, she could still hear her master's sigh. She suddenly revealed a strange smile, and a trace of ruthlessness flashed in her eyes. 300 years later, Zhou Xuanji began breaking through to the great sovereign of the 2 courts. But before he broke through, Jiang Feili suddenly sent him a telepathic message, asking him to go to the Taoist temple. Although Zhou Xuanji was in a hurry to break through, he had to give Jiang Feili face. He quickly came to the Taoist temple. "Greetings, Senior," Zhou Xuanji bowed. Looking at Jiang Feili again, he found that Jiang Feili's expression was a little heavy. He was no longer as calm as he used to be. Jiang Feili said, "You and Yinxing have been cursed by the ancient life lamp." Zhou Xuanji frowned. It turned out that the uneasiness he felt when he came back was real. "Do you know the origin of the ancient life lamp?" Jiang Feili asked, and before Zhou Xuanji could answer, he began to talk. "A long time ago, there was an evil god. He wanted to devour all the courts and destroy everything so that reality would no longer exist. He wanted to live alone and enjoy eternal loneliness. The ancient life lamp was transformed by that evil god. He was defeated during the primeval sovereign's era, leaving only the ancient life lamp behind. But at the end of the primeval sovereign's era, someone stole the ancient life lamp. Rumor has it that the evil god was released. After that, history was erased until today. The evil god's power of the ancient life lamp cannot be resisted by great sovereigns. You are now equivalent to being cursed by that evil god. Do you understand the seriousness of the matter?" After speaking, he stared at Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji frowned and asked, "Then what do you want me to do next?" The primeval sovereign's era was extremely distant, even older than the sovereign heaven. "Abandon your body and reincarnate," Jiang Feili said word by word, staring at Zhou Xuanji. Chapter 898. Impossible. Zhou Xuanji flatly refused. He had gone through so many hardships to reach this step. How could he recultivate? Moreover, if he gave up his cultivation, what should he do if his family was in danger again? So what if it was the evil god? He was facing the ancient life lamp, not the evil god himself. Jiang Feili's face turned gloomy when he heard this. Zhou Xuanji was an important part of his plan. He couldn't afford to fail. If Zhou Xuanji was killed by the ancient life lamp before he could stop the Qilin 9 absolutes, then his plan would be ruined. Thinking of this, his eyes turned sharp. His aura suddenly erupted, enveloping Zhou Xuanji. In this regard, Zhou Xuanji held his head high and puffed out his chest. Facing Jiang Feili's aura head-on, he wasn't afraid at all. He wasn't Jiang Feili's disciple, nor was he a puppet. He didn't force the ancient life lamp. He didn't fulfill Shen Yinqing's promise. Why should he reincarnate and recultivate? For his own good? But his tone was completely different. It was more like coercion. The two stared at each other, giving each other tit for tat. After 3 breaths, Jiang Feili's aura suddenly dissipated. The tense atmosphere also disappeared. Then you should cultivate well and rely on yourself to survive this tribulation. Go down. Jiang Feili flicked his sleeves and turned around. His tone was very impolite. Zhou Xuanji expressionlessly cupped his hands, bowed, and left. After walking out of the temple, Zhou Xuanji flew toward Shen Yinqing's blessed grotto heaven. After returning to the vast world, he was stopped by Shen Yinqing. Shen Yinqing raised her right hand and sealed the blessed grotto heaven. She said with a faint smile, "Your face is so ugly. Did my revered master make things difficult for you?" Zhou Xuanji shook his head and laughed. He naturally couldn't slander her revered master in front of her. "Ignore him. I won't let the ancient life lamp hurt you," Shen Yinqing comforted. Her tone became excited as she clenched her fists and said, "I will control the ancient life lamp. When the time comes, I will help you destroy the Qilin 9 absolutes." Zhou Xuanji rolled his eyes and said unhappily, "Protect yourself first. Even your revered master can't do anything about it. You still want to control it. Can you wake up?" After that, he bypassed Shen Yinqing and prepared to go back to continue his breakthrough. Only by becoming stronger would he be able to bring him a sense of security. Shen Yinqing's eyes widened. She grabbed his hand, pulled him, and snorted, "Shall we make a bet?" Zhou Xuanji looked back at her and said, "Not coming." This girl was too conceited. She didn't even feel the slightest bit of panic. Shen Yinqing said softly, "Let me tell you a secret. I have the means to control the ancient life lamp. In addition, you have to be afraid of my master. He is not as peaceful as he looks. He must have some ulterior motive for taking you in." Zhou Xuanji was surprised. He didn't expect Shen Yinqing to have such an evaluation of his master. He had thought that the master and disciple had a good relationship. Shen Yinqing understood the look in his eyes and snorted coldly. "I do respect him, but it doesn't mean that I'm stupid. Take your opportunity stones as an example. He is reluctant to give me so many opportunity stones. Why do I have to hunt great supreme masters everywhere? It's because he has reservations about me. If I'm not mistaken, the mortal god is also one of the chess pieces in his plan. Letting my sister come here is his idea." Zhou Xuanji fell in a deep thought. It seemed that Jiang Feili's goal wasn't just to stop the Qilin 9 absolutes. This was a very big game of chess. This plan had begun a long time ago when he took in Shen Yinqing. Shen Yinqing leaned in front of him and whispered in his ear, "Zhou Xuanji, don't trust anyone in this endless universe. The endless universe is not as beautiful as it seems on the surface. Maybe one day, I will also attack you for my opportunity." She took a step back and smiled charmingly at Zhou Xuanji before disappearing. Zhou Xuanji didn't think too much about it. He had heard such words too many times. Right now, all he could think about was breaking through as soon as possible. The breakthrough of each court realm, in addition to the accumulation of quantity, also needed to be guided to create a new dimension in the depths of one's soul. Unlike opening a small world, the court realm was boundless and could accommodate countless universes. It required an extremely stable soul strength and complicated operation of rules. Fortunately, he had Little Sovereign. Little Sovereign could give him guidance when he broke through. This also proved that Little Sovereign had at least the cultivation of a second court Great Sovereign. Before this, Zhou Xuanji thought that he had just entered the Great Sovereign realm and was even weaker than an ordinary Great Sovereign. But now, It seemed that the name Little Sovereign was an insult to this guy. In the blink of an eye, another 100 years passed. Under the guidance of Little Sovereign, Zhou Xuanji successfully broke through to the second court Great Sovereign. His supreme divine power had undergone a qualitative change, shaking the entire blessed grotto heavens. In front of a waterfall, Shen Yinxing looked up and saw waves rippling in the sky like waves. What is this guy's physique? How can he absorb so quickly? Shen Yinxing furrowed her brow. She suddenly felt that she couldn't see through Zhou Xuanji. She knew about the existence of Little Sovereign, but even with the guidance of a powerful expert, it was impossible for him to absorb so quickly. At the same time, in the temple, Jiang Feili opened his eyes. He cried out in surprise, "Strange, this kid." He knew that Zhou Xuanji's aptitude was very good, but he didn't expect it to be so outrageous. Doesn't this mean that if I give this kid more opportunity stones, he can continue to break through? And in a short time, thinking of this, Jiang Feili pinched his fingers to calculate Zhou Xuanji's origin. However, no matter how he calculated, he could only calculate Zhou Xuanji's past. He felt that something was wrong. Zhou Xuanji's fate was a little vague, as if it had been pieced together. What the hell is going on? Jiang Feili mumbled to himself. Suddenly, a light shadow appeared behind him. The light shadow said with a mocking smile, "Why? Did you feel the change?" Jiang Feili nodded with a solemn expression. "Give up on him. He is still cursed by the ancient life lamp. Be careful not to burn yourself playing with fire." The light shadow shook his head and said with a smile. Jiang Feili fell into silence and fell into deep thought. The light shadow didn't disturb him and let him think alone. After a long while, Jiang Feili said softly, "Forget it, don't need him." The light shadow asked in a cold voice, "You want me to kill him directly?" Jiang Feili shook his head. His eyes flickered with a terrifying cold light. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji was still consolidating his cultivation. He didn't know that a killing intent was coming. Very good. If you can go to the Eternal God realm, it will be great. The extermination immortal physique can absolutely grow wildly there. Like I said, you have the potential to surpass the previous sovereigns of the Kunlun Origin Court. Little Sovereign's voice resounded in Zhou Xuanji's mind. His words were full of praise. Zhou Xuanji could be said to be lucky to obtain the extermination immortal physique. But wasn't it predestined for him to have such luck? Since ancient times, he wasn't the first person with the extermination immortal physique. But very few people with the extermination immortal physique could grow to his level. Just when Zhou Xuanji was about to answer Little Sovereign, Shen Yinxing suddenly appeared in front of him and said in a low voice, "Hurry up, your trouble is coming." Chapter 899. What trouble? Zhou Xuanji looked up at Shen Yinxing and asked in doubt. He immediately had an answer in his heart. Jiang Feili. That old thing couldn't sit still anymore. Shen Yinxing said in a deep voice, "My master wants to make a move against you. When you step out of this world, it will be the time of your death. Don't look at how you have broken through to the second court Grand Supreme. Even if you break through to the three courts, you are still not his match." Zhou Xuanji asked with a smile that did not seem like a smile. "If so, how can I escape? I'm right under his nose." It seemed that Shen Yinxing already had a countermeasure. Could it be that there was a special and hidden teleportation formation in this blessed enclave? Get ready. I'll bring your wife and son in." Shen Yinxing snorted coldly and disappeared. Zhou Xuanji smiled before closing his eyes and continuing to consolidate his sovereign divine power. The lesser supreme sword, the life and death emperor sword, and the soul Kunlun sword floated around him, rotating and protecting him. Not long after, Shen Yinxing, mortal sovereign, and Zhou Tanhua appeared in front of Zhou Xuanji. Seeing that Zhou Xuanji was still cultivating, Shen Yinxing became angry. She rebuked, "Aren't you afraid of death?" Having heard this, Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes and stood up slowly. "Let's go," he said calmly. Zhou Tanhua asked excitedly, "Father, have you broken through again?" He had a look of worship on his face. After being outside the court for so long, he had some understanding of Grand Supremes. How long had it been? His father, who had just broken through to become a first court exalt, had actually broken through again. At this rate, Zhou Xuanji would soon surpass Jiang Feili. Let's stop chatting. Follow me. With a wave of her right hand, Shen Yinxing took Zhou Xuanji and the other two away. She turned into a streak of red light and flew towards the horizon, directly entering the waterfall between mountains. In the next moment, they arrived at the space-time tunnel. How can you be so guarded against your own master? Zhou Xuanji teased, making Shen Yinxing roll her eyes. Autar Crimson Dust asked curiously, "Where are we going next? Kunlun Origin Court?" Shen Yinxing shook her head. She looked ahead and moved forward at full speed. My revered teacher's target is Zhou Xuanji. Even if he escapes back to the Kunlun Origin Court, he can still find Zhou Xuanji. Shen Yinxing smiled coldly. The three of them were visibly moved when they heard this. They looked at her in surprise, wondering what she was going to do. Isn't it good to let my master fight with the 9 absolutes of the Kirin? Don't worry, we're not going to kill our way into the Myriad Domain Demon Lair. Instead, we're going to the Thunder League near the Myriad Domain Demon Lair. Shen Yinxing chuckled. When she mentioned the Thunder League, her eyes flashed with a hint of heat. Zhou Tanhua asked curiously, "What is the Thunder Alliance?" Shen Yinxing did not hide anything and introduced the origin of the Thunder League to them. In the boundless universe, there were not only independent planes and realms. There were also vast domains that were countless times larger than the Kunlun cosmos. There were many living beings hidden in these domains. Where there were many living beings, it was inevitable that there would be conflicts, and the formation of forces was also inevitable. The Thunder Alliance was one of them. It was one of the giants near the Myriad Domain Demon Lair. It was very open and did not have many requirements. It was an extremely famous holy land for cultivation and was also a place where resources gathered. Shen Yinxing wanted to collect more opportunity stones for Zhou Xuanji and use the power of the Thunder Alliance to deter Jiang Feili. Fighting was forbidden in the Thunder Alliance. This was also the biggest reason why the Thunder Alliance could become a holy land. Your revered master won't retaliate against the Kunlun Origin Court, right? Zhou Xuanji asked with a frown. He had already left the Kunlun Origin Court for some time. He wanted to go back and have a look after breaking through. Shen Yinxing hesitated and said, "I don't think so." Hearing this, Zhou Xuanji glared at her and said, "Let's go back to the Kunlun Origin Court." Shen Yinxing became angry and rebuked. "Is the Kunlun Origin Court so important? Can't you live? Don't you want to part with your other 2 wives? After playing for so many years, aren't you tired of it? I will find you more wives in the future." Zhou Xuanji frowned and said in a deep voice, "You are humiliating me." He directly used the sword fusion technique. His aura exploded, breaking through Shen Yinxing's sovereign divine power. Zhou Tanhua and Hong Chun's sovereign's expressions changed drastically. Both of them felt great pressure. Even their souls were trembling. "Oomph. Then let's go back to the Kunlun Origin Court. When my revered master finds trouble with you, don't expect me to help." Shen Yinxing said with a cold snort. With a shake of her shoulder, she suppressed Zhou Xuanji's aura. Her sovereign divine power once again wrapped around them, taking them in a different direction. The atmosphere was silent. No one spoke anymore. Supreme Crimson Dust closed his eyes and focused on his cultivation. Seeing this, Zhou Tanhua also followed suit and cultivated. Shen Yinxing glanced back at Zhou Xuanji with resentment in her eyes. She asked through voice transmission, "What's wrong? Are you so narrow-minded? I risked defending my revered master to save you. Can I make a joke?" Zhou Xuanji looked at her coldly and replied, "Some things can't be joked about." Shen Yinxing curled her lips. Hearing this, she became even angrier. However, no matter how angry she was, Zhou Xuanji didn't care about her. She was helpless. In the dark domain, the dark ship of the Qilin 9 Absolutes was slowly moving forward. 9 figures were standing on the deck. Among them was the Qilin demon. All of them were wearing black robes and looking straight ahead. Most of their faces couldn't be seen. They were like shadows. The myriad domain devil lair is just ahead. Are you ready? Of course, the sovereign heaven is waiting for us. We have to be careful of the Thunder Alliance and Yin Alliance. They are nearby and might disturb us. Don't worry, they won't dare. I've captured the heirs of many of their higher-ups. They won't start a war. It's this kind of trick again. Haven't you suffered enough? You've forced countless great supremes to perish together with you. The 9 absolutes of the Qilin began to discuss, all of them appearing calm and collected. They were determined to succeed in the following plan. The Qilin demon looked at the man in the lead and whispered, "Big brother, I have a bad feeling about this. There was news about the ancient honored life lamp not long ago. Will it affect our plan?" The ancient life lamp. The moment this name came out, the other Qilin 7 absolutes fell silent. The leader of the Qilin 9 absolutes was called Qilin Ancient Desolation. This name represented a nightmare in the boundless universe. Facing the reminder of the Qilin Enchantress, the Qilin Ancient Desolation shook his head and smiled. "I know where the ancient life lamp is. It is being held by an idiot and will not cause any trouble for the time being." Idiot? The others could not help but be curious. Who was the Qilin Ancient Desolate talking about? Just as they were about to ask, a violent aura attacked from the front. A dazzling light engulfed the darkness, as if it was going to swallow the giant ship. "Oomph, I've finally met you reptiles." A cold snort filled with killing intent was heard, causing the faces of the 9 absolutes to darken. The other party actually dared to call them reptiles. I was wondering who it was. "So it's the martial dragon ape. When did you climb out of the coffin?" The Qilin demon laughed contemptuously. As she spoke, she took out a blood-colored curved blade from her sleeve. Chapter 900. Qilin 9 Absolutes. Today, I will destroy all of you. The martial dragon ape sovereign snorted coldly. The bright light in front of him became even more intense, illuminating the entire universe like the sun was approaching. Whoosh! The sound of something tearing through the air rang out, and countless black arrows of light shot forth, each of them over 1,000 feet in diameter, bombarding the giant ship with an unstoppable force. The 9 absolutes of the Qilin disappeared from the deck at the same time. They turned into 9 huge and ferocious black shadows and rushed forward. Bang! Terrifying forces clashed together, directly shattering this universe domain. Within the space-time tunnel, Shun Yinxing controlled her sovereign divine power to move forward. Zhou Xuanji, who was meditating behind her, suddenly opened his eyes. He frowned and murmured, "This feeling is..." Shun Yinxing looked back at him. Zhou Tanhua and Mortal Sovereign also opened their eyes and looked at Zhou Xuanji in surprise. "It's nothing. I just suddenly felt a bit uneasy, as if something bad had happened," Zhou Xuanji said, shaking his head. He trusted his intuition. Something must have happened, or perhaps something was about to happen. He took a deep breath and said, "Can you go faster?" Shen Yinxing rolled her eyes. She was already moving forward at full speed. How could she go any faster? "It won't be long before we reach the Kunlun Origin Court. Don't worry." She turned her head and snorted contemptuously. It was really easy to lose one's mind when it came to love. Zhou Xuanji was usually so calm, but whenever he thought about his family, he would always be filled with worry, which made her feel disdain. The 4 of them continued forward. About 10 days passed. They finally arrived at the Kunlun Origin Court. Zhou Xuanji heaved a sigh of relief. Nothing had happened to the Kunlun Origin Court. Jiang Shui, Zhou Shaoxian, and the Emperor Sword Divine Range were still alive and well. All the divine ranges in the Origin Court were also fulfilling their duties, urging all living beings to cultivate diligently. There were no large-scale wars, and everything seemed so harmonious. Zhou Xuanji returned to the Sovereign Divine Range, while Zhou Tanhua went to the Emperor Sword Divine Range. Mortal Sovereign took Shun Yinxing back to the mortal plane to rest. After entering the Supreme Palace, Zhou Xuanji created some outer-of-soul doppelgangers and move them out of the Kunlun Origin Court to guard the various places. If there was an enemy attack, Zhou Xuanji would be able to detect it immediately. He took out the Lesser Supreme Sword and communicated with Little Supreme Sword. Zhang Feili, what is this person planning? Could it be that he also wants to obtain the Cardinal Heaven? Little Sovereign touched his chin and frowned, lost in thought. Zhou Xuanji contemplated as he channeled his energy technique. He could not understand why Zhang Feili wanted to deal with him. There was no hatred between the two of them, and they had a common enemy, the Qilin 9 Absolutes. There was no reason for them to kill him. Just because he didn't agree to reincarnate? Myriad Domain Demon Lair, 9 Ultimate Qilin, Cardinal Heaven, and the Ancient Life Lamp. Little Sovereign thought hard and his brows were almost knitted together. He suddenly thought of something, opened his eyes, and cried out in surprise, I understand. You're the Sovereign of the Kunlun Origin Court, and his goal is the Cardinal Heaven Realm. You might become a variable because you already know that his attention is on the Cardinal Heaven Realm. Even if you don't know his true identity, you will still be a potential threat. He clapped his hands in realization. Zhou Xuanji was still frowning and asked, what relationship do I have with sovereign heavenly beings? Could it be that I can attract Cardinal Heaven experts and make them work for me? Even so, as long as Zhang Feili did not target him, he would not let a Cardinal Heaven expert deal with Zhang Feili. Or is there a deeper reason? He wants the Cardinal Heaven, and so does the 9 Ultimate Qilin. That's why he wants you to join his plan. When the Cardinal Heaven is resurrected, this invincible sovereign will sense the aura of the younger generation. No matter what divine ability he encounters, the Cardinal Heaven will turn to you. As long as the plan succeeds, the 9 Ultimate Qilin will be led by the nose. He will then let you control the Cardinal Heaven to destroy the 9 Ultimate Qilin. After that, he will find an opportunity to kill you and replace you. After all, you are his disciple. But now, your aptitude makes him afraid, because this plan can't be carried out in a short period of time. If you're already a threat to him by the time the plan is carried out, then wouldn't it all be for naught? After Little Sovereign finished speaking, he started laughing. His laughter was extremely cold. Zhou Xuanji's eyes narrowed as he said, in other words, Zhang Feili will kill me at all costs. Otherwise, he won't feel at ease even if he controls the Cardinal Heaven. Moreover, he will even destroy the Kunlun Origin Court. Even Sovereign Wu, Zhou might be harmed. This old thing is too terrifying. He looks so amiable, but I didn't expect him to be so vicious. Yes, therefore we must take the initiative and join forces with the previous sovereigns of the Kunlun Origin Court to come and help. Little Sovereign said in a deep voice. He used to be a sovereign. How could he tolerate outsiders destroying the Kunlun Origin Court? Zhou Xuanji's eyes lit up as he asked, you can contact the previous sovereigns? The corner of Little Sovereign's mouth rose as he replied, virtuous great formation. The number 1 great formation of the Kunlun Origin Court. Every sovereign of a generation had the power of a sovereign in it. Zhou Xuanji also smiled. Very good, Zhang Feili. As long as you dare to come, you will die. In the darkness, Zhang Feili was flying forward on his flying sword. A light figure was floating behind him. Are you sure you want to chase him now? The light figure asked. After learning that Shen Yinxing had escaped with Zhou Xuanji's group, they were furious. Zhang Feili was searching for the whereabouts of the 4. His potential is too great. If we don't get rid of him, he may become the next ancient genius or even the next Cardinal Heaven, Zhang Feili said in a soft voice. His eyes were solemn. Ever since Zhou Xuanji escaped, he had been feeling uneasy, especially when he thought of Shen Yinxing. He felt even more uneasy. As he recalled some memories, a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. We will also destroy the Kunlun Origin Court while we are at it. At that time, we will pretend that it was the Qilin 9 Absolutes who did it. After all, the Qilin demon has been there, Zhang Feili said faintly. He had already made a plan after destroying the Kunlun Origin Court. As long as he found Zhou Xuanji, he believed that he could definitely kill him. The light figure said in a deep voice, I always feel that something is wrong. That kid is very strange. He is very confident when facing you. It's fine if he is under your nose. But once he leaves, I'm afraid it won't be so easy to kill him. Don't worry, no one can save him. What's more, his backer is just the soul of Little Sovereign. There's nothing to fear, Jiang Feili said indifferently. The light figure sighed and no longer tried to persuade him. They continued moving forward. After 3 hours, suddenly, a jade disc flew over from the front, spinning at high speed. Jiang Feili stretched out his hand and grabbed it. He took a closer look and exclaimed in surprise, "Is it the legendary White Universe plate? How did it appear here?" He raised his eyes and looked ahead. It was absolute darkness. He couldn't see anything clearly. "Jiang Feili, this treasure is for you. Do you want it?" A cold voice that sounded like a smile, yet not a smile, came. Jiang Feili's expression changed drastically when he heard this. Without saying a word, he turned around and fled. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.